good evening. Hello. We're going to have a delayed start of 6:05. Hi, good evening, everyone. Thank you for being patient with us as we had a little bit of a delay this evening. I recessed the Board of Directors into a work session at 4:30 this afternoon to collaborate with PSD administration on preparations for an upcoming district presentation at our WASDA annual conference. That'll happen in Spokane later this month. The session lasted approximately 60 minutes and no official action was taken. Following that work session, I recessed the Board of Directors into an executive session at 5:30 to consider the selection of a site or the acquisition of real estate. And that session lasted, well, about 30 minutes or so, and no official action was taken. So now I call the Tuesday, November 12th, 2024 Peninsula School District Board of Directors meeting to order. All board directors, with the exception of Director Glover, are present. Lori is unable to be with us this evening as she had a prior family commitment. Please note that this regular scheduled meeting is held to conduct district business. It is open to the public and it is being recorded. Would you all please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, we have a full house tonight. Thanks everyone for coming. I first want to start off by recognizing our veterans. If you are a veteran, would you please stand as we recognize you? I know we have two up here. Any other veterans in the audience? Thank you. Today we honor the brave men and women who have served in our military, including those in our school district community. Your sacrifices and dedication have protected the freedom we hold dear, and we are deeply grateful for your service. To all veterans, thank you for your courage, your commitment, and your sacrifice. We're proud to have you as part of our community, and we are grateful for the example you set for our students. We also want to recognize the life and legacy of Colonel James Jim Coolican this evening, who passed away on October 25th, 2024, at the age of 85. Colonel Coolican served as the superintendent of the Peninsula School District from 1999 to 2006, where he was known for his leadership, compassion, and unwavering dedication to the students and staff. Before his time with our district, Colonel Coolican served our country as a U.S. Marine Corps officer, earning the Navy Cross for extraordinary heroism. On behalf of the entire Peninsula School District, we honor Colonel Coolican's memory and the service of all veterans. We're grateful for your sacrifices and proud to stand with each of you today and every day. And we do have a few people who are with us this evening who wanted to come up and say a few words about Superintendent Coolican. So I'd like to call up Marilyn Wilson, who was former executive assistant to the board and superintendent, and Jill Johnson, former board of directors member.
First of all, it's very odd for me to be standing on this side after all the years on that side. But what a perfect night to be honoring Jim Coolican. And he went by colonel only on the day that the Marines would call to say happy birthday to him on that day for him. It was always Superintendent Coolican. He came to the district in a really dark time for us, and we needed somebody with good public relations skills, and he just fit that to a T. He had such skill with uniting the parents and the community and the staff. I got to know him well when I was at Henderson Bay for 17 years. The contractors were either going, I can't remember if they went bankrupt or they just didn't finish the job. I can't remember the story with that. But Jim had to go to Olympia with our principal to get the rest of the building built. And he just felt like it was so important for the students of Henderson Bay to have a nice place to go to school. And that was, we didn't have a bond then, so to be able to finish it with stick building, that was a big thing for Henderson Bay. And as office manager at Henderson Bay, he'd come and talk to me all the time about his family, and especially his son, who was a fighter pilot. And so I really got to know that personal part of Jim. And then he asked me to come up to be his executive assistant. And what an honor to work with this man. The first thing he had me do when I came to my position, he said, I want you to go around for the first 15 minutes of every day and talk to every department in this building to unite people and create a family environment, because the building was split. It was like the business side and the superintendent's side. And it was wonderful. And I did that to the day I left. And the one thing that I'll always remember about Jim, board meetings that lasted sometimes till midnight. And you guys weren't up here when there were huge trees and bushes in front of the district office. He had that cleared later, but when I would get out of a meeting at midnight, he always walked me out to my car. And that's the thing I want to remember the most about him. He was truly an officer and a gentleman. I'm going to miss him a lot. I saw him 3 years ago, and I just hold that in my heart. We were really lucky to have him at that time in our district.
Good evening. It is a real honor to be here. I'm a former board member in this school district. And again, like Marilyn said, it is a little different to be on this side. Jim Coolican passed away October 25th. He honored us with his time as our superintendent from 1999 to 2006. I was a newly appointed board member, and I first met Jim I served as a community representative on his cabinet. He saw something in me that I did not. And when a position on the board was being vacated in my service district, he asked me to apply for the position. I did, and my life was forever changed. Jim was a mentor to me and to many others within the district. Mahatma Gandhi says it best when he says a true hero is not defined by their strength, but by their ability to inspire and lead others. And from his obituary, quote, Jim displayed extraordinary acts of bravery and heroism, receiving the Navy Cross, the second highest decoration for valor in the United States. In the citation for this award, it reads, Captain Coolican's conspicuous gallantry, professionalism, and extraordinary devotion to duty were in keeping with the highest traditions of the Marine Corps and the U.S. Naval Service. Jim was my hero. He encouraged me to become a board member, he mentored me, and he introduced me to the right people to broaden my horizons and find my spot. One time he asked me to attend a training workshop on board governance, and it would be immediately followed by a national conference and a second training. It would take me away from Gig Harbor for 8 days. At that time, my oldest, who's here with me tonight, Hannah, was in college, but my youngest was at Goodman Middle School. And I told Jim I was really hesitant to be gone for 8 days. My husband worked up in Kent, a 35-mile drive. I just wasn't comfortable being gone that long. And so he said, well, let me see what I can do to fix that. So he picked up the phone, because we were seated in his office, and he immediately called Goodman Middle School, and he said, may I please speak to whoever is in charge of emergency contact forms? He then proceeded to give them his name and phone number and his wife's name and phone number to be added to Kirsty's information sheet. And he said, now, she's safe. And I said, well, what if there's an earthquake? Being a mother. He goes, I just made a commitment to you. I'm a Marine. She will be safe. During a challenging time with air quality concerns at Artendale Elementary, Jim called a community meeting together in the school's gym. Tensions were really high, and concerned parents wanted answers. Jim moderated the entire event and had specialists in attendance to answer questions and to help alleviate some concerns. One parent got up and was extremely upset and started pounding his fists on the board's table. within seconds, Jim was between the gentleman and the board, protecting the board. And after the meeting, he came up to me and he goes, "You look a little stressed." And I said, "Well, I'm a firstborn. I'm a people pleaser. People weren't happy. Yes, I'm stressed." And he said, "Well, let's go get a cup of coffee." No, I've never had a cup of coffee in my life. I don't drink coffee. And he looked at me and he goes, "That was not a request." I said, "Oh." So we met at the Sunset Grill. He ordered 2 cups of coffee. Again, I don't drink coffee ever, and he told me to drink. I gagged down a couple of sips. Then he proceeded to tell me that what I experienced that night was not stress. Then he proceeded to tell me what real stress was, and it was the event listed in his citation for the Navy Cross. Real stress, he said, was holding on to 2 dying soldiers in your arms, comforting them and telling them the helicopters were on their way while under enemy fire, knowing the helicopters were not coming. And that night, he taught me a lesson about stress that has been a lifelong lesson. He was the kind of superintendent who loved to be in the buildings with the students. I'll never forget watching him hopscotch with elementary kids. And I sat with him in a circle during story time in a kindergarten class. And I watched him engage in middle and high school students in science and history and geography classes. Due to his height, he immediately got the students' attention, and due to his gentle demeanor, everyone listened when he spoke. As superintendent, he believed in equity for all schools. He was equitable, but what he said was equitable was not always equal. But he made promises and kept them and rebuilt Harbor Ridge and Henderson Bay. He had a passion for learning, a love for kids, and a kind, warm heart. He was knowledgeable and inspiration and an early advocate for equity. One friend said recently that the world could use more Jims in it. How true. Jim had the courage to push past comfort zones. It was important to do good work because it mattered. Jim Coolican did good work. It did matter, and it lifted our district to new heights. With first Karen Phelan and then with Marilyn Wilson, they were great teams who did great things here. And he played a great role in bringing our school district to the forefront of our community. Jim always put the students first, and he valued his board of directors' insight and contributions. He encouraged and motivated everyone to do the good work. He challenged us to grow and to be our best. He was a gentleman in every sense of the word, opening building doors and car doors if you were riding with him. He became a true friend, and my children think of him as a very special person in their lives. And something I still makes me laugh until I cry sometimes. We were traveling to a conference in Denver, and his wife had warned me that when you travel with him on an airplane, he immediately goes to sleep. So if you're expecting any discussions or talks or anything, forget it. Well, we arranged the seats, so he was in the seat directly in front of me. I was right behind him. And his seat had something kind of wrong with it. So as soon as we were at the right elevation, he flipped it back. Well, it went almost flat. And his head is like right here. And I'm like, well, this will be a long flight. And the flight attendant came up to me and she said, "Shall I wake him?" I said, "No, he's my boss. Just let him sleep." Well, when he woke up, she had to wake him up, tapped him on the shoulder as we were getting ready to descend. And he kind of shook his head and realized what had happened with his chair. And he turned around and he goes, oh my, I'm so sorry. And the flight attendant, "She wouldn't let me wake you, sir, because you're her boss." And he goes, "Oh, no, she's my boss." And he was so embarrassed and mortified. And then we just burst out laughing. So every time we travel, the joke was, don't sit behind Jim Coolican on an airplane if you want to have a drink of Coke or your lap tray open. His devotion to his duties as superintendent and his ultimate professionalism in this role make him a hero in my heart. He has a place in the history of our district and in the heart of our district, because for 7 years he was the heart of our district. Semper Fidelis is Latin for always faithful, the motto of the Marines. It is an external commitment to the success of our battles, the progress of the nation, and the steadfast loyalty to fellow Marines that they fight alongside of. So tonight I say thank you for your steadfast loyalty, Superintendent Colonel James Joseph Coolican, Semper Fi. And with that, I'd like my daughter Hannah to share a few words.
Good evening. My name is Hannah Johnson, and I'm really grateful for a very brief moment here to honor Jim's memory. I met Jim in 1999 when I was a freshman at Gig Harbor High School, and I used to come to the ESD boardroom, which is nothing like this room for the record. I used to come every school board meeting because that was a time I could spend some time watching my mom and collaborating. And Jim always asked me how I was doing. He always asked me for something good that happened at school, and I found out later on that he would then take those good things and email or call someone later on to say, hey, I heard you did something good, thank you so much. And I didn't appreciate at the time how much that means. And my last quick note is, so Jim left the district in 2006, and that was a time in which we had just finished our third levy win after many, many levy failures. So for those of you who were around, I was a student in the 90s in elementary school and in middle school, and it was horrible. The morale of the teachers, of the staff, of the students, knowing that we weren't getting the community support was really challenging. And Jim brought that sense of community and trust from the community in our school district back and left us with this wonderful history of levy successes. And he and I used to talk about the supermajority requirement that was the requirement until 2007. And so when I got my first real job out of college, I was working as a legislative assistant for the Washington State Legislature for Larry Sequist, who served our area. And he asked me, what is the one thing you want to accomplish while we're here? And I said, I want to kill the supermajority requirement. And in our very first session together, we worked on that legislation and we helped to get that passed. And I was so excited to call Jim and tell him that that was gone, because he knew that that would have a lifelong impact on the future students of this district and the rest of Washington State. So for the students who are here today, please, please find good mentors like Jim and take advantage of their leadership and recognize the role that they have in the community. And what Jim was able to bring is a lot of success and dollars and wonderful facilities for you all. So thank you very much.
Thank you for sharing those words. I didn't ever have a chance to meet him, but he sounds like he was an amazing man. And clearly, I hope his family takes comfort in knowing that his legacy lives on in our buildings and statewide. I didn't realize the piece about the legislation for the supermajority on levies. That's amazing. So, Marilyn, Jill, and Hannah, thank you so much, and you're always welcome here. Okay, moving on to the business of the day, we have item 4 on the agenda, which is the approval of our agenda this evening. Is there any discussion prior to the vote? Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll move to approve the agenda.
A second.
It's been moved by Jennifer and seconded by David to approve the agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried. The agenda is approved for this evening. We will start tonight with our comments from student representatives. So, who is going first tonight? Lauren, are you first? Okay.
Hello, Lauren here, and here's the news for the Community Transition Program. Unified Club starts this week on Thursday. We will be getting to know each other and signing up for sports. This year, Unified will offer basketball, esports, cheer, color guard, and soccer and track in the spring. Basketball practice starts December 4th. On Friday, November 22nd, we are hosting a Friendsgiving feast with our University Place Transition Friends. I'm looking forward to making the turkey. This year, we are focusing on safety. We are going to meet with the Gig Harbor Police so they can get to know us and we can show them what helps us when we need help. We are also inviting our Peninsula School District safety officers to CTP so they know about us too. We have a couple fundraisers coming up. The Monday will The money will go towards CTP Unified Athletics and Meals with Morton. November 26th is our Chipotle takeover over by Safeway. A proportion of the sales are donated to our programs. We are pulling together a holiday children's basket that will be wrapped off on December 7th at the Key Peninsula Church. We hope to have enough donations to put together 2 baskets. Meals with Morton Spaghetti Feed was a big success. We raised over $1,500. Look for a unified wreath at Winterfest over Thanksgiving weekend. Another chance to give to a great cause. The Special Education Parent Advocacy Council, CPAC, is having a resource fair on Monday at 5:30 to 6:30 at Swiftwater Elementary. Come check out what is available in the special education world. November is a month of gratitude, and this week is Kindness Week. Today we talked about positive things in our lives. A positive mindset is being grateful and happy. And remember to enjoy the little things in life. Some of us are getting really good at cooking and have been making food for our families. Allie made quesadillas, Allison made stuffed cookies, and I am making dinfast, which is a dinner breakfast. On Wednesdays from 11:30 to 1 o'clock, we meet up with Penn Med Parks at Same Old Park. For Move to Music days, we do warm-up exercises, go for walks when it's nice outside. For Social Club, we do projects and activities. When we have holidays, we do karaoke, which is my favorite. My favorite song is When the Party's Over by Billie Eilish. Thank you for listening to my presentation. Have a great evening.
Great job. Lauren, I have a couple of questions for you before we pass it on. I missed the date for your Friendsgiving. What day was that?
Oh, that was on
22nd.
November 22nd.
Okay. And then the other question, you said you're accepting donations for baskets. Are you taking donations from the community, or how can we help you fill those baskets?
We don't know yet, but we're seeing how we're supposed to get our children's baskets donation stuff ready.
Okay. Well, we will check in with the CTP program and see if there's something we can do to help you do that. That sounds wonderful.
Thank
you.
you.
Guys are busy, and I can't wait to hear how your, what was it, Din Fast?
Yeah.
What you make for Din Fast?
It's a dinner and breakfast. We're having breakfast for dinner.
Oh, my kids love that. All right. Good job. Cool. Okay.
Hi, I'm Adam Massery. I'm the senior rep from Peninsula High School. So not too much for this report, but we have Winterfest coming up. It's going to be November 29th to December 1st. I know there's going to be a ton of vendors, food trucks. It's a great thing for our school, get a lot of involvement from the community. I also want to say that we had a super successful Veterans Day assembly. Everybody was super respectful, and we honored the veterans at our school. We also did a Miracle Minute, and we raised over $500 in that Miracle Minute for Honor Flight. And during our extended third period, our students wrote letters for the Honor Flight program. So we had an extra half an hour added to our third period to do that. I also wanted to say that our JRTC did a great job during the assembly as well. They put on a march. It was pretty cool. And then shout out to Aaron Hohenberg. Hopefully I'm saying that right. He got a $200,000 JRTC scholarship. So congratulations to him. That's really cool. Then we also have our school play coming up. It's Robin Hood and the Trial of Truth. It's going to start this weekend, I believe. So get your tickets. I believe it's like Purple Pass or something. I'm pretty sure it's Purple Pass. We're also celebrating Native American Heritage Month, gearing up for our charitable event, which is going to be a gift drive for teens. We're also going to have a cornhole tournament next week during both lunches. We have our winter social coming up in December. They said they don't have a exact date at the moment, so maybe next meeting we'll have an exact date. And then the ASB is planning an empathy assembly for December. So yeah. Also, college. We had a senior meeting talking about like purchasing gowns and everything a little like 2 weeks ago. Also, November 1st early action deadlines are over, and then November 15th deadlines are approaching. Like, I'm pretty sure it's Friday. So most of our students are either finished or finishing up their college applications. So the hardest part, waiting, has begun. And then one thing, Key Club, they're doing this really cool thing where we're going to Purdy, and we're going to be reading books to the second graders. And then after we read the books to the classes, we'll do like a little project. So I know for 3 of the classes, we decided we're doing like this small little art project where we're going to trace out a leaf, and then you go over it with chalk, and then they make it look all cool. And then there's also a second project, which we're going to do with one of the classes, and they get to paint a tree, and then they put their fingers in the tree to be the leaves. So yeah, now I'm going to give it to Kate for our feeder school.
Hi, I'm Kate. I'm our junior rep. We don't have much from our feeder schools this month, but from Key Peninsula, they just finished their fall sports. They said they had a ton of growth in school spirit and involvement. They had their end of quarter spirit recognition assembly, which was for fall athletes and for students exhibiting pride, which is perseverance, responsibility, integrity, dignity, and excellence. They had a school assembly with a guest speaker, Justin Washington, who spoke on the belief of power of words. It was an opportunity for their school and their communities to come together. They had their first band and choir combined concert. They had a really great attendance and great performance overall. They had a Belong survey, which shows 72% of their students feel like they belong, but they're continuing to work on creating an inclusive and environment where every student feels supported. They also had their first school social, which included dancing and food, sports and video games, and their kids had a great time. And then coming up, they have their second student advisory focus group, which focuses on capturing student voice and school experiences and help shape a sense of belonging. And that's it. So social is dance? So just like get together and hang out with friends, I think.
Hi, I'm Caitlin. I'm the junior rep from Gig Harbor High School. So this past week on Friday, November 8th, we were able to have our Veterans Day Assembly. We were able to hear from guest speaker Lieutenant Colonel Wimberly, and he talked to us about his time in service and how all of us can honor our veterans every day with our actions and choices that can range from big things to simple things such as putting away a shopping cart when you're done at the grocery store. And then recently, Gig Harbor High School became the winner of the inaugural Association of Washington School Leaders and Association of Washington School Principals Culture Kickoff Award. So that's an award that celebrates schools that have gone above and beyond to create a positive school culture, and I know our school is very happy with that because we are always looking to make sure that people feel like they belong, both our teachers and students. And then similar to Peninsula, our Winter Tide Fest is coming up fast, so that'll be December 7th and 8th, and we're looking forward to supporting our local vendors and different Gig Harbor High School activities that are going to participate in that. Our fall sports have also been wrapping up. We'll have students talk about that today, but our winter sports will then begin next week. And then recently, our Gig Harbor High School drama program was able to join Peninsula and Goodman Middle School for a performance and a workshop with the Oregon Shakespeare Festival. And then along with that, that program has performances coming up in December with their production of A Christmas Carol and Frozen Jr.
Cool. I'm Logan Toms, the senior representative from Gig Harbor High School. As for our band program, we are holding our Southside Jazz Night on November 19th and our Apple Pie concert on November 21st. Our Gig Harbor High School speech and debate had a stellar performance this past weekend at the Auburn Invitational. Some highlights include Mia Colombo taking first in Novice Impromptu and third in Novice Congress, Ellis Adamson taking third in Open Impromptu, and Aurora Letelier taking second in Novice Extemporaneous Speaking. In all, 9 tides came home with awards, and it's a really impressive showing and a really great start to the season. As for our feeder schools, we reached out to a bunch of them, and I know some of them are here presenting tonight, and we're definitely trying to expand this in the future. But for all of our elementary and middle schoolers, they held conferences the week of November 4th through 8th, and Copa Chuck Middle School in particular, their fall sports are ending up and are starting their wrestling season soon, with their first match being a home match against Key Peninsula Middle School on November 19th. For Goodman, on December 11th, they are holding their Goodman Middle School winter concert named Jingle and Mingle with a 6:30 start time. They're also having their fall play Friday and Saturday of Too Many Detectives at the Murder Mansion. And also the Goodman Middle School wrestling season is also starting up soon. For Discovery Elementary, they're holding their Art of Reading celebration Thursday, November 14th from 5 to 6:30, which will feature live music performances, a dance extravaganza, and a dramatic performances by the 4th and 5th graders. Lastly, looking at Voyager is having a literacy night on November 20th from 5 to 6:30, and currently they are accepting donations of gently used children's books. This is as well, yeah. So continuing on that point, they're having an upcoming school-wide taste test on November 21st, and they are involved in a farm-to-school grant and have several school-wide taste tests as part of their action plan. And they will be tasting Asian pears, which is exciting. So that's it, and thank you. Was there anything? Questions? Oh yeah, that's our high school band concert. It's our annual Apple Pie concert where we have our concert band, symphonic band, and wind symphony perform, and then afterwards there's always a lot of apple pie and other great Thanksgiving themed snacks. And that was November 21st.
I always feel like there's a downtime or a slow time, and I haven't found it yet. So you guys are just this is not it for sure. You guys are busy, so thank you. Well done, as always. Amelia's not here tonight. She let us know that she wasn't going to be able to give the report from Henderson Bay, but we will hear from her in a few weeks during her December report. Okay, so we are rolling on to our reports for the evening. We have first up our fall sports update, so I'll call up Wendy Molich and team to present on how we did this year.
Good evening, everyone. Is this on? Okay, perfect, good. Last time I stood up here and addressed you, it was right after I was hired. So here I am in the thick of things. So we're doing, I know, right? This year, the report's going to look a little bit different. I think in the past, the two high schools have separated out their reports. This year, we combined them so that we are coming together as two high schools to celebrate the successes of both high schools. So I'm really pleased to have the kids with me here today, and they're going to each introduce themselves.
My name is Nehemiah Grandorf, and I go to Peninsula High School, and I play football.
And Russell. And
I wrestle.
And Giraffe. Just in case you forgot.
I'm Bo Ensminger. I go to Gig Harbor High School. I'm a captain on my swim team, and I'm a swimmer, and I play water polo.
My name's Electra. I'm a senior at Peninsula High School, and I do track and cross country.
Hello, I'm Taylor Slutner. I'm a senior at Gig Harbor High School, and I also do track and cross country.
Hello, I'm Hugh Vicente, and I'm a senior at Gig Harbor High School, and I play tennis.
I'm Kate again, and I play volleyball and I do track.
Go ahead. Okay, who's got Peninsula Scholastic? Nemo.
Awesome. So our Peninsula High School Scholastic Achievements, all fall sports earn WIA Scholastic Awards. Our Distinguished Awards, which is 3.0 to 3.5 GPA. Boys Cross Country with a cumulative GPA of 3.334. Boys Tennis of a cumulative GPA of 3.412. Boys Football 3.093. And Boys Water Polo 3.274. And our Outstanding, which is a GPA range of 3.5 to 4.0, is girls cross country at 3.525, girls soccer at 3.534, and volleyball at 3.669.
Go ahead, Jenny. Jenny. No worries.
And similar to Peninsula, all our sports receive WIA Scholastic Achievement Awards, with our football team receiving the Distinguished Award, and all 6 of our other sports received Outstanding Awards for having a cumulative team GPA of 3.5 to 4.0.
Very impressive.
Our fall sports participation, Peninsula had 331 total participants across all fall sports, and Gig Harbor had 386 total participants across all fall sports.
Okay.
So both Peninsula and Gig Harbor placed 5th in our divisions, Peninsula being 6 and 10 and Gig Harbor being 5 and 11, both narrowly missing our district tournament. The picture up on here is our whole Peninsula volleyball program going to support the Harbor Ridge. I think they were playing Goodman, and so we all went to support to both the 7th and 8th grade games. So that was a cool highlight of our season.
Cross country.
Both our cross country teams did really, really well. First, we have Peninsula. Our very own Electra Higgins, she got 2nd in state, which was awesome, with our 2nd fastest course time of the meet. She also she was our West Central District champion, which is amazing. Their girls team for Peninsula qualified for state with a 5th place, at 5th place during our district. At district championships. The boys team qualified for state with 6th place, also at the district championships. They did really, really well.
Nope, go back. Sorry. Thank you.
And for our Gig Harbor cross country, the boys team placed 2nd in leagues and districts, and the girls team placed 1st in league and districts and 3rd at state. And Taylor Slutner was our league champion, placing 2nd in districts and 5th at state, and she also broke the Gig Harbor High School record, being the first female to run under 18 minutes in a 5K.
Yeah, you wait a minute, Electra. Come back here. I want you to tell the board what you did at the state. Yeah, you broke what?
I broke 17.
17, yeah. Only 2 girls in the state have ever broken 17 on that course. Oh, you're up next.
All right.
Girls soccer.
Yes. Our girls soccer teams at Peninsula and Gig Harbor, they both won their divisions in league. Gig Harbor was the league and West Central District champion, and Peninsula is ranked 5th overall, and Gig Harbor is ranked 1st overall, and they both have games this Friday and Saturday.
Hi, our Peninsula swim team is going to state in their 4x1 freestyle relay, placing third in the district in that event. And then our Gig Harbor swim team qualified 12 swimmers to state and is bringing all 3 relays this weekend.
And then both boys tennis teams had very, very good seasons this year, with Gig Harbor placing third with a 10-4 record and Peninsula placing fourth with a 10-5 record. Gig Harbor was fortunate enough to have was fortunate enough to have a doubles team and a singles team qualify for the state to qualify for the state tournament in spring.
For boys water polo, the boys team placed first in the division and is going to state this weekend, and our Peninsula team placed third and is also going to state this weekend.
And for football, Gig Harbor was 4-6 and fourth in Narrows division, and they're also the fishbowl champions. Peninsula was 4-6 and third in the division and advanced to play Kennewick in the round of 32.
I just want to take this time to thank the 6 athletes that came and helped me out tonight. I think it's a lot better hearing from them versus me. They also have agreed to be on my first ever athletic council. So we had to talk about that on where we're going to go with the athletes and engaging in student voice in our athletic programs. So I'm super excited to continue my work with them. So thank you. Do you have any questions of them or me?
Yeah. How many of you are seniors? All?
4.
4. Okay, good. So some returning. Yeah, go ahead with questions.
Can you just talk a little bit about what you just said about what's your goal for this commitment you just made?
My goal is to bring the students together and work on issues across the district together. So we're going to start with the athletic code of conduct. It needs a complete revamping. And we discovered that this year when we had a few issues that cropped up, that there doesn't seem to be a lot of accountability in it. So we're going to work on that, and we're going to have the students create that accountability so that moving forward, any kind of athletic issue, discipline issue, party issue, HIB issue is addressed in that athletic code of conduct. That will be our first thing. And then we're going to work on some sportsmanship issues. Unfortunately, we had a few ejections this fall, which we didn't report, but we're going to work on those types of issues too. So I'm super excited to work with them. It's their high school career, and they're there for the 4 years, and we want to make sure that it's great. I was telling them, and sorry, I'm segueing a little bit, that I just went to my 45th high school reunion. And if high school wasn't a great 4 years for me, I wouldn't keep going back to see my friends. And that's what kind of experience we want for them when they leave these high schools, that they keep coming back and experiencing, how it was in high school. It's the greatest days of their life. So,
yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Check
Any
this
other
question.
questions?
Yeah.
How fast is the 17? Like miles per hour.
How fast is that, Alexa?
Fast.
Oh, yeah, do the math.
Yeah.
We know the cross-country kids can do the math because they've got such a high GPA.
How fast is that, like your
Per mile
pace?
pace.
It's about I think it's about 527 per mile.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
I had the pleasure of being there, and I got to kind of go back and forth, kind of watching the two of them compete, and it was phenomenal.
Wow.
Yeah.
I mean, it was so fun to watch them and come across the finish line, and they were just like, oh, another race. And I was like, I would have been on the ground. But
Yeah.
it was amazing.
That's amazing. Yeah, I ran cross country back. Wow.
Yeah.
That's
Yes, it is.
10 minutes.
Yeah.
I can't
Well-
even walk that.
Thank you. We say every time how proud we are of our students when they come up here, and I don't think that we realized this tweak in the presentation was missing until I saw it myself tonight. I really love to see both of these schools up here and supporting each other. And then can I also say I'm a little bit humbled to be in the presence of greatness. I'm used to reading about you guys in the news, and thank you for taking time to be here with us tonight, because you guys are doing something spectacular, and it's really, really wonderful for you to be able to share it with the community. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, yes, Preston.
So one thing, Wendy, as you're walking off, I just think to really put an exclamation point on the academics and being an athlete and a scholar, and how amazing that is. What you just, I mean, that parents should really sit up and be so proud of the level of sportsmanship that is exemplified in both schools. So I'm really, really proud of that as well. So thank you.
Okay, item 6.2 this evening is our transportation review. So I believe Donnette is here. Hi.
Good evening, Board and Superintendent Barr. Thank you for having me. I'm not quite sure how I can follow that up. That's quite the, I'm like, well, now what do I say? They're amazing. They're awesome. Great kids. So thank you. I thought tonight I would give a little bit of a different presentation than I've given the last couple of years, and talk about who we are in transportation, what we've been doing, and what we look forward to doing. Of course, I'll focus on a couple of numbers that I'm sure you'll want to hear about. But let's see if I can. Oh, look at you. You're pressing my buttons. No, that's okay. You're good. So for the most part, our staffing does look the same, although for us working there, there were some really big differences this year. We still have, what didn't change is we still have the same trainer who's doing a wonderful job. Our office manager's still there, kicking things out. We have one dispatcher who remains the same, and then of course me. But what has changed was last year we had our supervisor, the department supervisor, retired after she had been out for a while on leave. Then she retired. So we spent most of the year, the first half of the year, without a department supervisor there. And in February, we were able to move our specialist and promote her up to the supervisor. So that's really great that we were able to promote from within. But that left us our specialist position that was open there. One of our dispatchers retired at the end of last year, Dorothy, and so we replaced Dorothy with one of our bus drivers who had been a bus driver with us for 3 years. Prior to that, he was in broadcasting and journalism. So he's got quite the personality, and he's fitting in really, really well. The drivers like having him on the radio. Community loves it when they call him. So he's doing a really good job for us. The specialist that we hired, though, we were really lucky to obtain. She comes from North Kitsap. She was there for 27 years. I sat on the state board with her in previous years. She's an OSPI lesson planning committee member. So she creates the lesson plans that all school bus drivers have to go to once a year. She also has been a third-party tester. So when you become a school bus driver, once you go through all the class and the training, we have special people throughout the state, and there's only like, right now there's less than 30 of them throughout the entire state that can test you to become a school bus driver and then hold a CDL. So she also holds that. So she has a wealth of knowledge, and we're extremely lucky that we were able to bring her on board. So one other position that we were able to create this year was our application analyst. And Michael has been amazing in helping us with all of our new technology in the department. And we're trying to move ahead as fast as the rest of the district is in technology, and he's really helping us do that. So we're grateful to have him. To bring you up to speed on some of the things that I've been doing, I am currently the WAPT, Washington Association of Pupil Transportation, president-elect. So that's I've been on the board for altogether 13 years, not all at once, but so this year I'm the president-elect. I also sit on a State Transportation Association Council for NASDIPS, which is the National Association of State Directors for Student Transportation. So that's what I've been up to besides for taking care of all of our kiddos and buses. Do you want to, next slide? Oh, wait. Can we go back? I think we missed one. Yeah, mechanics. There we go. Mechanics, we've ran the last whole year, almost a whole year now, 2 mechanics down. That's unfortunate, but we did do some work with negotiations over the summer, and so we're hoping that that's going to help us attract some good recruits in the near future. So we currently have 3 daytime mechanics, 2 nighttime mechanics, and 1 shop foreman that take pretty good care of our buses, passing all of our inspections. So now let's talk about those amazing drivers, because we have them. So we have 63 daily routes that are fully contracted. That's 1 more than we had last year when we were here. The routes that we have are all fully contracted, so they have a bus driver on them. We're lucky in the fact that we don't have any open routes and that we are covering them every day, unlike a lot of our neighboring school districts and those throughout the nation. We have 11 substitutes, but those have very varying degrees of availability, whether that's, some of them are only available on Friday and some on Wednesdays and some that are just really available, so, but not all of them. Let's see, where are we at? Over the last year, we've held 8 classes to train new school bus drivers, and that's a lot. I can guarantee you that's more than any school district anywhere around here that I know of, and probably more than any school district in the state, frankly. We're holding them back to back, and we're not letting up. And that's why we are able to do our routes every day. Next slide.
Can I ask you a question?
Oh, yeah, sure.
Because I want to remember it at the end. If you're having all these classes to train new drivers, but you're fully staffed for drivers, are they then going out and helping to support those other school districts?
So no, thank you for bringing that up though, because the next slide is going to talk about what our, oh, it's a great question. So those classes that we've had, the 8 classes, we've had 35 trainees in those classes. So out of those 35 trainees, we actually had 20 that completed the class, which is insane because as long as I've been in this industry, the success rate through that class is about 50% typically. And that's from beginning a class to sitting in the driver's wheel transporting our students. It's a program that you have to go through, and there's a lot to it, and we only want the best for our kids, so there it is. See, we have 20 of those that completed the course. 10 have been awarded a contract, so that accounts for attrition, people who have left for other reasons. We've had some of our drivers that have left for whatever reason, but we had 7 drivers retire. And we also had 6 new trainees start a class last Monday. Out of those 6 trainees, we currently have 4 still in class. They've completed the classroom portion of it now, and now they're on to behind the wheel, and they'll start that tomorrow. So, yeah. But this is like my favorite slide ever. We go over 1 million miles. That's a lot of miles. Every day, almost 5,000 miles, transporting almost 4,000 students daily. Daily, 5,000 miles and 4,000 students, so that's a lot. That's 1,135,704 miles and 1,431,000 student trips per year. Whole lot. We also go 92,035 miles on trips, and that could be academics or sports. So when you put it all together, it's a total of 1,227,739 miles that we travel in all each year. This is what we did specifically last year, and that equates to 49 trips around the world, all of that. And the most amazing thing is that I can stand here right now and tell you that not one student was injured on a school bus accident in our district traveling over 1 million miles. Thank you. We have great drivers. We have great drivers. Okay, so back in April, we partnered with the Key Peninsula Fire Department to do something. I had 2 bus drivers that came to me and said, you know, Dawnette, you remember back when we were kids and we had the bus evacuation drills? We would go and they'd set out mats and we'd jump out the back of the bus. And, we learned a lot and we really loved it. And I'm like, yeah, I remember that. The times have changed a little bit. The requirements of us have also changed. But they were like, I just really think that's beneficial for the kids. And I'm like, I do too. And they worked hard to set it up. Those 2 drivers went to the principal at Vaughn and got her on board. And then went and actually talked to Key Peninsula Fire Department themselves and got them on board. And then we, of course, all had meetings and talked about it. But we were able to go out with the 4th and the 5th graders last year at Vaughn Elementary and have all of them come on the bus. We talked to them about what to do in different types of emergencies. Some of them actually got to pull the emergency brake so they could hear what it sounded like and what it felt like so they wouldn't be scared in case of an emergency. We also allowed them to go out the exit door, which is something that the state doesn't require us to do, so we don't typically, just because it takes so much time and we don't have a lot of it. So that was a real great experience for them. They also, a couple of them, also got to talk on the radio so that they could hear dispatch actually answer them and know that this is how you get help. So it was a really cool event for them. The Key Peninsula Fire Department was awesome. They came out, they helped all our kids out of the bus, and so I feel like that was a really good partnership for our kids too, to be able to have them there and not only see them when it's an emergency, but also see them there to help them, learn. So that was a fun time. This year we've also been featured in 2 articles for Gig Harbor Now. The first article, well, I'll get back to that one. The second article is the one that's up there first, sorry, in the margins. And I was called by one of the, by the gentleman who wrote it, Chris, and great guy. He had been reading a lot of our Facebook posts from the community, and sometimes we don't get a lot of love out there. So he called me and was curious about what was going on and came out to do an article. And I answered his questions and put him in touch with a couple of our drivers, and he came away with a different point of view. And his point of view was, these people are really awesome. People don't become school bus drivers because they don't like children. They love children. And so if you haven't had an opportunity to read that article, it's really a heartwarming story about 3 of our bus drivers. That's great. So, and all of them are, but these 3 were really good. The other article happened earlier. May have been over the summer. It was right after we got the EPA award, the rebate award. So we were, so they did a study in regards to the fact that we were awarded help with 10 new buses. We've purchased 5 of those and taken delivery of, we've taken delivery of 4 of them. 1 is on the way and will be here in about 2 weeks, I think. And we're gonna be able to purchase 5 more that will be delivered by September, with the help of that rebate. So this story was about the EPA funding and the transition to propane, and how that helps us go green until we can bridge the gap to electric if that becomes a viable option for us. There you go. So the transition to propane, these buses are helping our students breathe easier, and we're able to save money while we're doing it. So it's a great thing for the district. These buses, the new propane buses, are 90% cleaner than the EPA's most stringent regulations right now for heavy duty standards, and they're 99% cleaner than the buses we took off the road to replace them. So the buses we took off the road were 2007 and older, and these buses are 99% cleaner than those. Just a little fun fact for you, in 2019, Georgia state study shows diesel school buses fumes drive test scores down. The study correlated increased academic performance in math and English when children were exposed to lower levels of school bus emissions. So we're doing good for our kids on the academic side as well as breathing easier. And now I want to talk about how we're saving money, because last year we only had 4 of these buses on the road. This year we have 8. So last year, with 4 buses on the road, we saved $43,083 on fuel, just fuel. That's not, sorry, I didn't calculate the DPF, the DPT, the oil is less than half in those buses, the wait for the brakes. I mean, and just mechanic time alone, because new buses stay on the road. Those old buses were in the shop consistently. So we're saving a lot of money, and I am pretty excited to see what my future holds on how much we're going to save next year and the following years after that. The new buses are 7.3 liter V8s, and they have 350 horsepower, versus the old were 6.7 liter V10s at 280 horsepower. So they're leaner, meaner, and greener. So, currently 8, and we have 5 more that we're going to order for deliver in September. So that brings me to the next one, which is the next round of EPA rebates. So right now they just opened it back up, and it will be closing January 9th. So I am currently in the process of putting in for additional buses. We have 9 buses in our fleet right now that will qualify for this one. So if I can get that, I'll be excited. So there's lots of money out there to be had. And right now for us, it makes sense to go with the propane versus electric because we're not a prioritized district. We would only get $170,000 on an electric bus. And those buses cost over $500,000 right now. So that's a lot of money for the bus alone, and that doesn't cover the infrastructure, and which we're not set up for right now. And with our yard being the size that it is, I don't know where we would begin to put an infrastructure right now for that. So right now, propane makes sense for us. Let's see, where are we at? Oh, yeah, something else that we were able to do this year with the help of Chris. Thank you, Chris. And the Gig Harbor Fire and Medical One there, we were able to upgrade our buses with new radios, and the difference is astounding. We are actually able to reach and communicate with buses out on the Key Peninsula and out on Fox Island now, and it's been a great transition. We also upgraded the radios within the dispatch office. They're all computerized now. We talk through our computer, and we can see the buses where they're at on a map of who we're talking to anytime we're talking. So it huge benefit to us when somebody calls and wants to know where a bus is. We can tell them pretty easily. So yeah, those are some partnerships that we've had that we've really enjoyed. And another thing that our bus drivers are doing this year, I had some great bus drivers come to me, different ones, and say, you know, we used to do the Stuff the Bus every year, and we haven't done it in forever. And would you be okay with it? And I'm like, of course I'd be okay with it. So yeah, we're going to do Stuff the Bus at 2 different locations on December 7th. One's at Fred Meyer's, one's at Target, 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And the donations will be split between 3 local food banks: Gig Harbor Fish Food Bank, the Bischoff, did I say that right? Bischoff Food Bank of Key Peninsula, and Key Peninsula Community Services. And we'll also use that opportunity to recruit more drivers because we never stop recruiting. So yeah, that's my update for you. Guys have any questions for me?
I got one.
Okay.
Can you talk just briefly about the STARS program and the amount of money that we're spending on transportation for the fuel and the bus driver salaries and maintenance compared to what we get from the state? How much are we having to use from our levy to pay for transportation? If you have, no?
That's going to be in my presentation in January or December 3rd.
Okay, thank you. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
I have one quick question, if I could,
Yep.
and then I'm going to ask if the students have questions too. They might. Okay, this is not necessarily related to your presentation, but know that we're going into winter season, and we get a lot of questions about ice and snow. Can you just lay out what that process looks like for calling snow days?
Absolutely. Well, I get up at 2 a.m. Actually, I have a team that's amazing. Different districts do it differently, depending on where you're at. I feel very strongly that our bus drivers know exactly how our buses handle and know when it's safe to be out on those roads and when it's not to be safe for our kids. So I have a team of veteran drivers that offer to get up at 3 o'clock in the morning with me. Wow. And we break the district up in different areas, depending on where they live. And so we all go out and they drive their areas and they call me and text me. We actually have a group text. They can't be driving while they're texting, but once they drive their area, they text me. I'm in the district as well. I have an area. As soon as we have an idea of what conditions look like throughout the district, then I give Creston a call. We're on speed dial at 3:30 in the morning.
Well, that is one of the most awesome things being a superintendent is that you are responsible for either calling or not calling snow days. And my husband is also a superintendent, so the bars do not sleep that night. And I just want to say thank you. Prior to coming here, when I was superintendent in Eatonville, I was driving my Jeep up by Mount Rainier. And so this team is fantastic. We have a team, we have a group chat. Probably by 4 o'clock. If we can, we like to call it the night before.
That's right.
That is our goal to do for parents because then they can plan. That has worked pretty well here. But it is not a true science. There are, people and lives that we have thinking about families. I'm a mother of 3, so I understand how important it is to make that call as early as possible so that families can plan for that. But I just want to thank you, and we're going into that season again, and we do have some new chiefs, so guess what you're also responsible for. But I would say that we try to communicate as quickly as possible, and we have a real spot-on team. I also want to thank your bus drivers. I know that out on the Key Peninsula and up and down all of the hills and making sure that, because I have been not lectured, but I have been told there are certain places that you go to because you know that there's black ice and all of that. So
we know where our hot spots are, and our biggest thing when we're talking amongst one another is our buses are big and they're heavy, and they will perform well if you're not out driving them. But what we want to be cautious of is our new high school drivers. When we have little kids out on the street corner waiting for their bus, what are our high school drivers going to do when the snow's on the road? So those are the things we take into consideration when we look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I just want to say, because there are parents here in the audience, anytime that a parent wishes to, make that call, we just support you. So,
absolutely.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, any questions from our students? Did you guys ever
like snow days?
Did you take the bus to school? Do you guys remember your bus driver's name? Yeah.
My bus driver was named Bob. Took that bus all through middle school, freshman year, and I still ride the bus home sometimes, even to this date. So I love our transportation system.
Thank you.
That's great. Thank you. Any other comments, questions from students? Okay. Any other questions?
Question, actually. So I know you mentioned those bus drills that you did at Vaughn Elementary. Are you planning to do those for all the elementaries, or is that just a one-time event?
Thank you for that question. Yes, our hope is to be able to spread that. We worked with Key Peninsula Fire on that one. So we have been talking to Gig Harbor Fire Department to do an elementary on this side. So then we can grow the program once we have buy-in from both of the organizations. So yes, thank you.
Yeah, go ahead.
Just a quick thank you, Dawnette. I feel like since you've sort of taken the reins of leadership, you've really elevated the role, the role of transportation and the, the importance of these drivers in our children's lives. And it's really awesome. I love seeing the stories in the paper.
Yeah.
Bus drivers are a huge part of the school day for most of our children. We all remember them. I remember mine from elementary school. So really appreciate your leadership with transportation.
Thank you. My pleasure.
I would like to add that the bus drivers, when we have a welcome back, so at the beginning of the school year, there is a competition up in the stands.
Wait, can we scroll back to that picture while you're telling the story?
What was it?
It's amazing PSC bus drivers slide.
Well, we have them chant, so the
There.
schools, they dress up and they all have their gear. Okay, these, the yellow, the bus drivers, they win consistently. They win everything consistently.
We have bus driver voices.
Yes, you do. But I so appreciate they show up, they wave. So if you're out on the roads, wave and they will wave back.
Yeah,
they are happy, very motivated, very loud bus driving.
It's
staff.
a great pleasure to be able to work with them.
Great.
Thank you.
Yes, and dispatch mechanics, the whole team. Thank
Yes.
you. All right. Okay, and our third presentation for this evening is going to be our elementary school improvement plan report. So I believe it's the superintendent team coming up.
All right, well, good evening. We're really excited with this opportunity to present you this new revamped school improvement presentation. You're going to hear from Natalie here in just a moment to talk about some instructional focus for the school year. Then you're going to have a chance to hear from each of our principals, and we're going to have 2 schools address each of our 5 strategic goals. And then Julie will get up here and kind of wrap things up. James is here to answer questions. If there's more in-depth questions about the data, then you're going to get from the principals. And we hope you're happy to hear all this here in just a second. So go ahead, Natalie. Thanks.
Thank you for having us this evening. So as you remember, last year we did a pretty big overhaul to our school improvement plans for each of those schools. So for this year, you'll notice I'll point out a couple of subtle changes, but overall, it'll look and sound a lot like years previous. For our elementary schools, they have 4 goal areas. So they have English Language Arts, or ELA is the term that we use, math, science, and belonging. Science is new as a goal area for our elementary schools this year. The year-long goals that are tied to each one of those plans, those are set by the school district, and they are based on the strategic plan goal of 100% proficiency by 2026. So James pulls together our data from the spring assessments, and we set those year-long goals for our schools based on that previous year of data. Within each one of those goal areas, each individual school sets continuous improvement cycle goals within a 6-week cycle. So those goals are based on data, they're implemented on an action plan, the teams analyze that data and adjust and move forward based on what they hear. That's the graphic that you see in front of you, the Plan, Do, Study, Act. So our schools right now are just about halfway through their second continuous improvement cycle for this school year. And so they're looking at data, taking small action steps, changing to help them get to that 100% goal by 2026. Principals will share a little bit more in detail about some of those cycle goals as they share in each of those areas. There are some common expectations for our elementary classrooms across the district. For English Language Arts, our school board adopted curriculum is Reading Wonders. As you know, we are working through a pilot right now to adopt a new curriculum at the end of this school year to implement next year. Our 37 pilot teachers across the district have just finished up their Wit and Wisdom and Really Great Reading pilot. And today they started the Core Knowledge Language Arts, or CKLA curriculum. So they're working through that. So teachers in the district are either working with Reading Wonders or engaging in our pilot process. For math, our school board adopted curriculum is Envision. That is an older curriculum adoption, and that is one that we look to update next in our, as we continue to update curriculum. For science, our school board adopted curriculum is STEM Scopes, and all elementary teachers use Second Step as a social emotional learning curriculum. And then for that belonging data, we are using the Panorama Survey for grades 3 through 5. In addition to all of that, this year, our schools are engaging in student focus groups. And so this is an opportunity, much like our athletics was talking about student focus groups to get the voice of the students. Our schools are doing the same thing, getting voices from different students and then taking action based on the focus groups and the data that they're hearing. So with that, to go into further detail about academic excellence, I hand it over to Katya.
Yes. All right, I'm Katya Rimali, principal at Voyager Elementary, and Jessica from Artendale and myself are going to talk a little bit about ELA, and we just wanted to bring us back to what Natalie shared about the target and give a super quick overview of that slide because it can look a little overwhelming if you're not familiar with what exactly we're doing. So our growth targets are updated with Smarter Balance data every year, and if you're looking at the very first column after our names, you can see the Smarter Balance data from 2023. The next column has Smarter Balance 2024 data, which is the most recent data that we have. We're 2 years away from the target year of 2026, so whatever the distance between the 2024 and 100% is, divided by 2 is our growth target. So if you're looking at Artendale and Voyager, who happens to have the same proficiency rate for the 2024 Smarter Balance data, we were both at 70%. That leaves us with 30% until 2026. Half of that would be 15%. Therefore, our growth target is 15% for both schools. And you can look at all the other schools if you would like. Turn it over to Jessica.
Okay, so if we're gonna just kind of go through and talk about on October 2nd, we had our data dive. And so we looked at our diagnostic data with our iReady and our DIBELS data. And so as a staff, we identified which students we really need to target and provide our RTI targeted interventions for them. Again, Natalie was mentioning we use our Wonders interventions. We have ECRI that we go back and reteach and pre-teach to our students. So we're using research-based strategies to really think about what our students need in order to make that growth, like Katya was mentioning. We have something called win time, so that's what I need time. So students engage in that core ELA time where it's students getting direct instruction, doing independent practice, and then they move into the win time, and teachers are meeting with students based on, again, that skill set that we need to close that gap with. We have lovely parent volunteers that come in, which we really appreciate. Even in like first grade, third grade, you'll see like 4 or 5 groups going on at a time. Some students then might receive LAP intervention because they need that second dose of intervention time. And then our students also who receive IEPs also get a third dip of intervention to really try to target that growth. During the win time, we also have students give them choices. So many of my teachers use choice boards or different checklists and things for students to really choose what they're working on based on their goal. So we believe in also that student voice and that student ownership. So students select goals based on, again, our iReady and our DIBELS. So maybe they're working on fluency, maybe they're working on comprehension, and the teachers have select activities for them to do in order to reach their goals of that intervention, what they need. We just had student-led conferences last week, so this is I think our 3rd year inviting students to come to the conference, and students set their goals with their teachers. So that was one of our SIP goals for this cycle 2, is every student will create an ELA, a math, and a personal goal. And they shared that with their parents during conferences last week. Tess is here from 3rd grade in the front. And so it's just so great for students to be a part of it, so that way they can really talk about where are their strength areas, where are those next steps, what do they need to do to achieve that goal. So that's really important too. So some of them are going to read every day for 20 minutes. They're going to practice their sight words. They're going to do all those different pieces and really engaging families and students in that process.
So a lot of the things that are happening at Artendale are happening across other buildings in the district as well. So I'll just share a couple of pieces from Voyager. Just like Artendale, we used Dibble's data in the fall to determine what our win groups looked like. And what we actually found was that our upper grade students were doing relatively well compared to how they had been doing in the past. And our lower grade students is really where we saw the biggest discrepancy and biggest opportunity for growth. So typically our lab services have been spread out across all grade levels. This year we've limited to 1 through 3rd grade because our 4th and 5th graders were doing so well at the beginning of the year that we really wanted to focus our efforts on our lower grades. It's really a testament to our primary teachers who have prepared those 4th and 5th graders to do so well. So that's pretty cool. That shifts a little bit of what we're able to provide 4th and 5th grade teachers with. In the past, they were able to access those lab services. That doesn't happen now, so they are a little bit more intentional about what their win groups look like, and we're pushing in with lots of para support, parent support. Our librarian has a group, our office staff works with students, so anybody who can pushes in when they can. Our 4th and 5th graders are doing a walk-to model during intervention time, not both grades combined, but each grade. And so it's pretty cool. The teachers have combined basically the whole grade level, looked at what their needs are, and kids are walking between classrooms and fluid between different groups, and it's actually, it's pretty cool to see. And then the other piece that I wanted to share was our kindergarten data that we use. We don't have Dibbles for kindergarten at the beginning of the year, so we use the WA Kids data that our teachers collect at the beginning of the year. And with that data, we this year again generated what we call the top 10 kindergarten list. So we're really identifying our lowest and youngest readers, and those kiddos are getting extra doses from whoever is available to provide that extra support in hopes that we really can get them to be at level when they leave kindergarten and continue on in 1st grade. So it's been really cool to see since the beginning of the year our students have made progress. We're progress monitoring just like other buildings, sometimes on a bi-weekly, sometimes on a monthly basis, and we're excited to see what that next data point looks like. What questions do you have? Sure.
So I'm not sure who to ask this question of the 5 of you up here. Happy to see progress in most of the schools. There's 5 schools that there was a dip between 23, 24 for the SBA. Just curious, what's the action plan to bring those up? I can see where growth goals to get them to where they want to be, to catch up, to be on pace for 100% by 2026. And so I guess I know in the past we have each school come up and we see charts and graphs. Is that going to be something we'll see down the road as far as more individualized, or are we just going to from now on see high level for the whole school district?
I'll let somebody answer that question,
Okay.
but I do want to point out that on that data sheet, when we're looking at comparison, it's really challenging because we're not looking at the same kids.
Okay.
Last year's 3rd graders are not what this year's 3rd graders are, or 4th graders or 5th graders, so it's not that they're traveling, so it's really challenging to make that comparison sometimes
Well,
because
that's
it's
why
not
you
a
can't see the cohort because we don't,
Exactly. Yeah.
I like charts. So I like that.
Yeah,
You can track
yeah.
a cohort. So I was
Yeah.
just curious if that.
Yeah.
Second one is, oh, I'm sorry. Sorry, Mike.
Yeah, the only other piece of that too, Dave, is just the, so the school improvement plans went live on the website today. So that data is there for each school, and you can see the school improvement plans and the work they're going to take to address those gaps you were just asking about.
Okay.
All right.
I know a couple years ago, we had the literacy task force that stood up specifically because we had members of the community come up about their issues with dyslexia. Over the past few months, I've heard across the state lots of horror stories around dyslexia, special ed. So where are we, because I haven't really heard much about the literacy task force or where we're at on that. So what are we doing to make sure we're doing early intervention for our dyslexic students? And
Well, I might let Natalie talk a little bit about that too. So that's why we're all up here.
Yeah. So the Literacy Task Force, as you remember, they created those guiding principles that were supposed to be used K-12 in selecting materials as well as providing instruction to all students. So those are the guideposts as we go through our new literacy adoption. So K-12, we're doing literacy adoption. High school decided on their curriculum at the end of last year. You approved it. They are implementing and continuing to do implementation training, teaching those units for the first time right now. Middle school and elementary are going through a curriculum adoption currently and are piloting. Anything that we're piloting in those areas have to be aligned with our guiding principles that were created by the task force. So we are no longer looking at materials that don't address the varying needs of our learners and provide intervention and support for students that need the extra dose of that explicit instruction.
Okay, and finally, when we're working with students with IEPs or regarding ELA, how do we partner with parents? Because that's one of the things I heard the most of, is that the communication between the SPED and the folks that are working with the students in ELA and around IEPs, that there's not a lot of communication with parents. So what are we doing to make sure that we're partnering with parents on their development with their IEPs?
I think conference time is a great example, so I'll let a principal speak to conferences.
I was going to say, last week during conferences, my resource teacher actually attended some of the students' conferences with the gen ed teacher, right? So they were there. You know, they do their progress monitoring with the students and the goal setting. They send out the progress reports too for parents. I know we just did a few IEP, annual reviews with the parents and things like that. So at least that's what we're doing at our school.
Okay, I guess if a parent has a complaint about the IEP or how's it going, what's the process for them to let someone know that they'd like some assistance with that?
Yes, I was going to say that at any time, a parent can reach out to the case manager. And so an IEP, it doesn't have to just be that date. It's ongoing. We said this is a living document. If they've already achieved that goal, if they're not, if we're not satisfied with the growth they're making, we can always convene and meet together. So we tell them every single IEP meeting about that.
Thank you.
Yep. Yeah, they also, there's due process and procedures that they could follow if they are not satisfied with what the case manager puts together.
The due process piece is a little bit intimidating, I think.
I agree with that, yes. Yeah. So we're going to turn it over to the next team.
All right, I'm David Brooks, principal at Swiftwater, and
I'm Delana Halliday, the principal at Discovery.
I'm going to share a little bit about math, just on our data, similar to the English language arts. Math, you notice, we're working on, I think the question that David asked really was, some schools started here in 23, we saw either a dip or high, and it is a different cohort of students that come through. But you can see we're all working on that range from 14 to 24% growth piece. For us with math, it just means that we as a team need to figure out how do we support kids in making that progress. And I want to talk about Discovery's school improvement plan piece, which is the next slide. And Swiftwater, oh, I'm sorry. I'm going to talk about both of them, yes. Really hard. Yes. So for Swiftwater, what we notice is that problem solving is one of those areas that we continue to struggle with. And so using the Envision curriculum, there's a pose the problem that starts every lesson, and it's a real life problem solving strategy. And it's just to spark that mathematical thinking. And we want kids to learn strategies on how to solve a problem, like figure out what operation is it that's using. And this is from kindergarten through 5th grade. And within that, we want to develop those strategies and activities that help kids grow their own thinking, be able to share that, be able to explain, whether it's in words or with the representation, that they can share how they think, that there are multiple different ways to solve a problem. So our goal is to dig a little deeper in terms of what are those strategies that we some of our staff had some really great staff development a number of years ago through Teacher Development Group on mathematical discourse. Last year we did some work around number talks, and we want to just continue that across the school. And one of those activities that we're going to take is all of our teachers are using that pose the problem, and we want to dig deeper in terms of how do we get kids to engage in that with that discourse. And so we talked about looking vertically that each grade level team has a great idea of what it looks like in their grade level with their team. But what are some of the strategies that we might learn from kindergarten through 5th grade that will carry us through those grade levels? So that's one. The other activity that kind of overarching takes all this as our universal design for learning is that using flexible methods, whether it be all of our teams decided that we're going to use some sort of choice board, which is a must do or a may do, and those may do's may be activities that are scaffolded for kids that need some extensions, or it might be scaffolded down to help support kids to get some of those basic skills that they need. It also would include things like math games that kids have an opportunity to play with and have some real life experience using those skills in a fun way, as well as thinking about how can we do projects and math mysteries to help engage kids in making math feel like it's a everyday fun activity and not just computation. I think those are kind of my 2 areas I'd hit on, and I'd share Delana to.
Actually, we have a lot of similar ones, of course, not much of a surprise when you consider that all of us work together so much on what we do daily in our buildings. So one of the things is we do have a mastery-based learning grant, and just overall at Discovery, that is giving us a really strong focus on ensuring students have mastery, especially in the areas that are of our essential standards. Those things that as a district, we've already come together and said, these are the most important things for kids to learn. We want to give a guarantee to the next grade level that every kid coming to them has mastered this. So we have put that into ELA as well as math, and then we're sending it up. So one of the ways that we've been doing that is similar to what David was just saying about looking at the strategies that are used between the grade levels to see what are the high leverage strategies in math that we can vertically align so that as students go up, they are continuing in similar processes and not some strategies that might make the learning difficult later on. That was one of the things that came to our attention, that some of the strategies that some of the students may have been learning when they were younger made other parts of learning math more difficult later on. So we had a really great time together as a staff looking through those together. And then we are also focusing on learning targets, and that comes down again to those essential standards, making sure that every teacher knows what they're teaching, why they're teaching it, and that students know what they need to do to get there. So they can look at self-assessment, engagement, and be more involved in their own instructional pathway. Any questions?
So I'll be curious to see with the math curriculum adoption if it has any additional supports for how parents can support kids at home, because as we talked about for a while now, reading to your children is somewhat intuitive, but we teach math a little differently than most of us have learned. And I'm at the point now with my second child that I'm almost afraid to support her because I think I'm going to send her do it wrong. So can you talk a little bit to that? Like, have you seen, or how do you engage and help parents like me who want to support my child, but I'm afraid I'm going to teach them wrong?
Well, the good thing is you're not going to teach them wrong. I mean, when it boils down to it, I mean, anything.
Not according to her.
Oh, well.
According to her, I'm doing it wrong.
The principal says otherwise. Yeah, you're not going to mess up your child's future in math by teaching them the way that you did it at home. When you did it when you were younger, because we all had that too. And it's just, you can just, that's the process. That's how, you know how to do it. And at school, we have other ways, but it's still getting to the same goal. How can we have students think about math as a process, not just an answer? Because that's really what it comes down to. And I absolutely agree. It is a great opportunity to build better partnerships and more relationships with our parents, because it is. I mean, I remember teaching stuff and, I started having math nights right away because I just knew like the language was so different as a new teacher when I looked at this. And so, yeah, there's certainly great opportunities for that. And as we look at the new curriculums that we might be considering, there's a lot of opportunities for our work around UDL to be expanded in that. And I think that will also help families also understand a lot of what's happening. That when we're talking about math, again, it's understanding what numbers do and how they affect our lives, not just getting to 5 + 5 is 10. So, yeah. Anything to say? Oh, sorry. Something.
No, that's great. So we have not started looking at math curriculum yet, but imagine the world in 2012 compared to 2024. And the resources and technology has drastically changed. So I'm finding as we work through ELA that the parent hub and online presence for a teacher with for parents with ELA and how to support their children is drastically different than it was in 2015 when we had adopted Reading Wonders. So my hunch is that any new curriculum that we're going to look at is going to have videos for families to watch. Teachers sometimes have to watch those videos too, because it's not the way that we were initially taught how to do math either. So those resources will drastically change. Just like in ELA, you get a family letter that comes home. We're starting a new unit. This is the theme of this unit. Those same sort of resources would be connected to math. The world's changed since 2012.
Anything else? And thank you.
Good evening. My colleague Todd Herring sends his regards. He's unable to be here this evening, so unfortunately I probably will read from this lovely sheet that he prepared for me, so I don't misrepresent his school. Todd and I had the pleasure of coming together to talk a little bit about science at our schools. I'm not going to explain the data table as that has been explained to you previously by my colleagues. So when Todd and I sat down to kind of talk about what does science look like at your schools, much similar to my colleagues, it's amazing how aligned our schools are in a lot of our similar practices. So Todd said his journey kind of started when he met with his 5th grade teachers. They made 2 big adjustments. One is the infusion of the scientific process, scientific thinking into all subject areas, as well as going deep into a strategy called claim evidence and reasoning. It's a writing prompt to help communicate what is your understanding around science. So that infusion piece is in all areas: math, ELA, social studies, science. And here it's where teachers are asking students to analyze data, make inferences, check in with those inferences regarding the evidence. Do they need to reanalyze them, and then make any adjustments to that? An example of claim evidence and reasoning that he shared is that this first unit, and I apologize he didn't list out the grade, but one of the first units from I believe one of the pilots was the Nez Perce Indian tribe, and what they endured being forced from their lands. And the students were asked to initially consider what they already knew and what they believed they would be taught. And then throughout their readings and their works, they would pause to check in on their understanding, check their original claims, adjust as needed, providing additional evidence related to that new learning, and then write out their reasoning for that claim and that evidence. And this is a process that's repeated regularly as they navigate through the lessons, resulting in learning that is internalizing of the information and powerful, and expands their views of different cultures. So he shared, by keeping this process regularly in front of students and having them practice this process over and over again in all areas, it's becoming how students solve problems and process information. So not only did it have a clear impact on their SBA science scores, they grew 21%. It also has helped to create informed consumers of information, critical thinkers, and expand their worldview with flexible thinking. So CER and that infusion of this idea around taking those ideas of claim, evidence, and reasoning in all subject areas is really helping Minter Creek grow in their performance. A Pioneer, we are science classrooms, K-5. We are Pioneers PBL STEAM. The S in STEAM is science. It's where we have actually started all of our learning. So all of our project-based, I can't say that. Most of our project-based learning is wrapped around a foundational science concept. So I'm gonna speak to you today in regards to our 2-3 classrooms that are doing a force and motion unit at this time. So they have a driving question, and I'm not going to state it exactly correct, but what they're doing is they're looking at roller coasters and how does motion and force act upon each other to create roller coasters that go. And so their English language arts is integrated into that. They're looking at main idea, supporting details. They're asking and answering questions. They're looking at text features in the text that they're reading. Meanwhile, they're focused heavily on these science concepts of force and motion. Just last week we had conferences, and in one of our 2-3 classrooms, the students were showcasing their prototypes for the roller coasters. And listening to them talk about I was in a different classroom, I think a couple days prior to that, and they did like a gallery walk where they had different pictures of roller coasters, and they had to start making conclusions and drawing ideas about what do they think about these roller coasters. Are they going to go fast? Are they going to go slow? Why? Talking about a lot of the rooted vocabulary. The students were able to make statements like, I think this roller coaster is going to go slow because the steep of the hill is not very high, whereas this one is really high, but if you notice it comes up high too, so I think it's going to stop because they won't be able to keep going. It was really awesome, and this was just launching the unit, so this isn't even a lot of exploration yet. This is really just them. And then I think the other amazing piece about Pioneer is not only is it integrated with the reading and the writing piece, we do a lot of CER too, since Todd chose to talk about that, I won't, but it's integrated in our specialist as well. So we have an innovation specialist, and so it was very powerful. 2 weeks ago, I sat down with the collaboration with 2-3s, and our innovation specialist came in and said, hey, I know what unit your guys are working on right now. How can I reinforce your vocabulary? How can I ensure that we are on the same page here? And so he's doing Minecraft EDU roller coasters where they're having to label where force and motion is evident. Is it a balanced force? Is it an unbalanced force? Where is it in their roller coasters? They're having to write out CER statements about the information that they're learning through this integrated model. And then on top of that, in all of our classrooms and all of our specialist classes, we use the launch process, which is a design thinking model. And we use it in our problem solving with peers too. And we're always focused on that idea of highlight and fix. So we've asked a lot of questions, we've done prototypes, we've learned, and something didn't quite work right. That's the fun part about this roller coaster prototype right now, is they're not actually going to be functioning. But it's really awesome to hear the kids talk about why they think it's functioning. They're using the right language, they're using the right vocabulary. Next up is they're going to build them together collectively, taking different ideas together. And so, again, navigating those ideas as a collaborative group, creating those prototypes, and then what worked, what didn't work, how are we going to revise that? Again, back to that claim, evidence, and reasoning. This is why I know something's going to work or why it didn't work, and what I need to do. So it's that really strong embedded integration piece. Science is, as it's represented on the SBA, is a very strong reading and writing assessment too. So I think you'll see some correlation in data related to how students are performing in reading and writing. Any questions? Okay. Yes, I love science.
Good evening. The only thing, I got it, thank you. The only thing I was nervous about tonight was the height of this microphone. So I've got it figured out. Good evening. I'm Kelly DeMonte, principal at Vaughn, and I just want to start by saying it's been an honor to be chosen as the principal. It's been so much fun. So thank you for selecting me as the Vaughn leader. Hugh and I are going to talk about a sense of belonging. So looking at Vaughn, we have a goal to increase our students' sense of belonging from 71% to 86%. And we actually, in the spring, 71% of our students felt a true sense of belonging, and then we also were at 71% in the fall. So we've started some specific things that we're doing to help increase that, and I want to talk briefly about some of those. We have started with some positive office referrals, and so those come from any staff member, so not just classroom teachers, but we've had our custodians submit them, we've had our lunch staff submit them, and what that is when they notice a student going above and beyond in terms of following our Husky expectations or being kind to others, just doing things that really instill a sense of belonging, then they can fill out this specific office certificate, and then we announce those on our morning announcements every morning and highlight those students. We started that, and then from that, one of our fourth grade student saw me at lunch and said, Mrs. DeMonte, I think it would be cool if the students could do shout outs to other students, just like the grown-ups do for the students. I said, that's a great idea. And so we developed what we call Husky High Fives. And so they're just peer-to-peer little certificates that when they notice a student doing something exceptional that helps to increase that sense of belonging, then they do a little shout out to their peers. And so we also read those on the morning announcements as well. Our positive office referrals and our Husky High Fives are displayed on our bulletin boards in our hallway. We had a lot of positive feedback from our parents and guardians when they came for conferences last week, and so that told us that we need to continue as well. Every month we are doing positive phone calls home from the principal, and so every classroom teacher submits a student's name and specific reasons for why they should be chosen. So this week we're working on the November phone calls, so they get their photo taken, we email it to the teacher. If they are photo approved, then we'll post that on our Facebook page as well. So we've gotten a lot of positive feedback in that regard. We did our first student focus group, and so we met with 6 students from 3rd through 6th grade, or 5th grade, and our school counselor and our instructional facilitator began that important work. And it was really cool. We got some video footage of their conversations, and we shared it with our building leadership team because it was really insightful for us as the adults to close our mouths and just listen to kids. And I think throughout our school day, we are talking at kids so much, and it just reminded us of the power of pausing and listening, and not even listening to respond, but just to listen. And a couple of themes that came from that, from our students, we have a buddy bench out on our playground, and the intent of that is when a student is feeling alone or sad or needs somebody to play with and doesn't have anybody, the purpose is that student would sit on that bench, and if other students see that student alone, they are to go and provide support and comfort and invite them to play. I wasn't aware, and I don't think our recess supervisors were aware, that students were sitting on this bench and nothing was happening. And so through this focus group, these students, this was one of the themes that came out in their conversations, is we got to do some work with our buddy bench. And so we thought, what a great opportunity for our 5th graders especially to do some training for our younger kiddos, and to work with the classroom teachers in terms of what they need to see happen so that we can make our buddy bench more effective. And that will also help to increase that sense of belonging.
I'm Hugh Maxwell, principal at Evergreen. Thank you for giving us this opportunity tonight. When we look at our data, I think I can remember it from the slide, we were at 74% sense of belonging, and I think need to move that up to 87%. We always look at our fall data. That should be in, I haven't looked, but that should be in probably any day now. Our students just finished Panorama last week. And sometimes we have to make big adjustments, right? You'll see always see a drop from the spring, where you've had kids all year and worked really hard, and then you get kids back in the fall. You get new kids, they all have a new teacher, they've been at summer, they don't want to be back at school maybe. So you do that sense of belonging, and you always see a little drop. And that can be, a little bit of a wake-up call for staff to really think, okay, how are we going to make these kids feel welcome? Some of the ways that we make kids feel welcome every day is through our Eagle Eye program. It's just a little, I saw so-and-so. Eagle Eyes, we give those out. Students take those to their teacher. We want kids to take those home right away, right? Be able to show them to their parents. They get so excited. So we have charts in our classrooms, and teachers have laminated, so they just put it on the kid's name on it, stick it up, and when the chart gets filled up, it's kind of this collective efficacy. They're all working towards filling up the chart, and they do some kind of little celebration. Like our transitional kindergarten has filled theirs up twice already, and they are, I think, having a pajama party on Friday, maybe. Something fun, you know, just for the kids to enjoy. They're still doing learning, but they are comfy. We also do student focus groups. And it's just been interesting to hear what other student focus groups in other schools have come up with. Ours came up with just the idea that sometimes they don't want to go out to recess. Sometimes recess is a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress for some students. So we have a team that's been working with these students, and they've set up some restful recess is what it's called. And each grade level has a different day, and it's just amazing how many second or third or fourth graders go up to the library, and it's just quiet, and some are just reading, some are drawing, some are just, you know, enjoying time with their friends without really doing much of anything. And that's just been really, you know, because kids are so excited about recess, and there's a big push for recess and that health piece, but there's that mental health piece too. I think sometimes where recess for some kids is not the best place for them. Fifth grade leadership, along with other things that we're doing, is an opportunity for kids to feel purposeful. So we have a big banner, you've probably seen it in our school. It says, how are you going to make Evergreen a better place today? And that's what we try to do. We try and give kids opportunities to make Evergreen a better place, because we know that when people feel purposeful, they feel like they belong, right? So we have fifth grade leadership teams doing different things. We've got students doing the announcements. We have students handing out food backpacks for kids. We have students doing composting, robotics clubs, choir. We have just not more than just fifth graders doing those things. We have our Communities and Schools coordinator, Megan White, who's amazing, is doing some lunch buddy recesses, some friendship recesses. We also have an increasing, growing multilingual population, and Megan oftentimes will have, you know, little breakfast groups with some of those students and get their voice included. They are included with the other voice, but sometimes, you know, when you don't know the English language, it's sometimes hard to really share your voice, and Megan is just so good at working with those students and bringing that out and then sharing that with the larger group. So we continue to try and make Evergreen the best place it can be, and we do that through supporting our students.
For your student focus groups, I really, really appreciate that everybody is standing these up. I feel like that is I love what you said about by videotaping, you have no option to interrupt as an adult. You have to listen. Is it the same group of kids all year long, or is it different students every time? And what's kind of the composition of the group?
Each school might be doing it differently. We have teachers nominate them, and so they sometimes know they're the kids that's kind of more quiet, reserved. Maybe their voice isn't being heard in class meeting, but they know that every child has something to say. And so that was our first group, was selected that way, and then we reached out to parents, of course, and asked parents if they could participate, and all the parents were like super excited for their kids to participate and give their voice. But I know it might be a little different at each school.
Ours is the same as well.
So I'm going to say thank you, just like Jennifer. I've said many times over the last 11 years that I didn't put a lot of faith in the Healthy Youth Survey. Caught heat from members of the community, some in this room, for saying that I didn't put a lot of faith in the outcomes of the Healthy Youth Survey. And I've said many times that I think we needed to start student focus groups so we can get more real-time data. And so I want to say thank you for starting those. I hope we're doing that in all the elementary schools, middle schools, and high schools. And I'm happy to hear that you're finding success in using those students focus groups. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
First. Hi, my name is Ryan Heaston. I'm the proud
Yeah, we are matching. Proud principal of Harbor Heights, brand new this year. And Christy and I have the pleasure to present innovation in AI at the elementary level, which is quite a challenge because we don't have a lot of data to go off of. And so what are our schools doing? And so I look at Harbor Heights, and maybe some of you know that we have the options program, we have TK in the resource room. And so we've been intentional about promoting inclusivity, and I know that's not tech oriented, but here's some of the things that we're doing to promote that, to create a welcoming space for everyone. The first thing, and I'll talk about focus groups like a lot of my colleagues have, our focus group we had some 5th grade students called the Orca Kindness Pod, and one of the things that came out of that was they said, you know, Mr. H, and so the question was, how do we make school more inclusive for all? And they said, Mr. H, you know how we, say, please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance every day? And I go, yeah. And they said, why do we say that when everybody can't stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I go, well, that's a great point. And so what came out of that is now we say, participate in the pledge any which way you can. So every day. And I just found that something so small had such a large impact across our entire student body. Some of the other ways that we're promoting inclusivity, and I asked our staff this, being new to our building, is what do we do that's innovative here? And our specialist team came together and they said, every year that we put on sessions for all students to promote disability awareness. And they get to experience AAC devices, and I had to look this one up too, is the augmentative alternative communication device that a lot of our students use at Harbor Heights. Christy has some props here. It's a great way to communicate, but I know at a lot of schools, they just teach their students and then maybe the staff member that they're working with how to communicate. And we don't necessarily take the time to teach the other kids in their classrooms how to communicate with each other using these devices. They also had the opportunity to understand visual and hearing impairments, mobility and occupational therapy issues, and they get to experience this all grade levels during the month of December. And then, we have all kinds of teachers that are doing inclusive sports clubs and being innovative in their own way of promoting that inclusivity, especially at Harbor Heights. The AI piece. Right now, I think we're living in the Wild West of AI and how we're going to use that at the elementary level. And so after talking with our staff, we have quite a few of our teachers and our OT in particular who may be working with students that have some fine motor issues. And sometimes a lot of our assignments are draw a picture of, match your writing depending on what the grade level is. And this student goes, I had a hard time. I have this image in my head of what I really want to draw and what I'm describing, but it's difficult for me. And so she brought up AI to the student in Canva, and the first description is, I want a cat, and it says that cat doesn't look like my cat. She says, well, it's a hairy cat, and so they refined their search, and that input created something that represented to him what his story was about, and that's powerful. It's not just having it. How do we use AI responsibly with students? Is telling them how we input that information to get the result that we want. And this is what I'm super excited for, is I've been working with our STEM teacher. We're going to get a new playground. We've talked about this numerous times. The groundwork has, started as far as the mat, but that accessibility piece is important. But how do we get student voice into that? And our STEM teacher goes, I got this. And she says, we're gonna ask AI to help them define what that inclusive playground might look like. And then we're actually gonna use Canva, another AI tool, for some design opportunities. Is that a true representation? So I'm really excited. She's gonna start that next week, she said, for our 4th and 5th graders. And so when we get that information, I'd love to share that with you guys to see what they came up with. And as far as empowering educators and students, I know I've talked about that a little bit already, but those educators, that's a really important piece because everybody's in a different place of what they know about AI, their comfortability with it, and then trying to empower them and what it can be used for. Tomorrow we're going to have tomorrow and Thursday during our PLCs, we're going to start to use AI to develop some formative assessments, some feedback tools for student use, and that's going to be their craft or their time tomorrow, to where we did some work earlier in the year. So I'm excited for them to try it out. People are getting their feet wet. Some people are already using it, to the nines to design their lessons. I know a lot of our colleagues have used it. And I don't know what your experience with, but it's exciting as all get out, but it's also incredibly scary to see where we can go with this. And so our job is to kind of walk that line, and what's that responsible teaching for students, and how are they going to be using it at the elementary level. All right, you ready, Christy? Okay.
Nice job. Thank you. So I'm Christy Brooks, the very proud principal at Purdy Elementary. And I looked back at the strategic plan when I was thinking about what I was going to talk about for Purdy and our district regarding innovation and AI. And these words stood out to me. We're transforming the mindsets of learners to inspire curiosity, creativity, and a sense of wonder. We're fostering a culture of risk-taking within our learning communities. We're empowering our educators to develop innovative, student-centered practices. We're inspiring curiosity and creativity. And when I looked back at that, I thought of so many wonderful things. And I think about my principal colleagues who spoke before me, and all of the practices like reading and writing and mathematics and science. Those foundational skills are important for our kids to be able to master, to be able to be creative and be risk-taking and be in a sense of belonging, so that they can build these transformative mindsets that we're really trying to build with our students. I want to talk a little bit about what we're doing in our STEM class. I got to go in and watch our STEM specialist working on robots with our students and coding. And the kids were programming the robots to make their eyes blink, to make them move, to make them turn. And these were third graders. We also have robots that we're purchasing for our kindergartners through a grant that we received as well. And it's so exciting to see our students doing this. But not just that. My science teacher and my music teacher were talking because they were so excited that they said, well, my music teacher, he said, I'm going to take kids and have them develop music and make music, and then we can have them program that into the robots. Just think of what we can do. And just to hear them talk about that and how excited the teachers are and how excited the kids are, it just really, I'm just inspired by my staff as well and seeing what's going to happen. So that's really exciting. We've also gotten our Promethean boards this year for our teachers, and they're learning to use those, and those are very engaging for students as well. They get to come up to the classroom and actively participate in the lessons and the learning. So that's really been exciting as well. And 3D printing and coding as well, our students are really enjoying also. But when I think of innovation and creativity, I also think about the arts at Purdy, and we've gotten Arts Impact Grant. We've also gotten the Mastery-Based Learning Grant that Delana was talking about with earlier as well. And through that, we've been able to not only provide professional development for our teachers, but also have our kids experience risk-taking through the arts, whether it be performing, dancing, singing, visual arts. And through that, our staff and students have worked together to create an Arts Around the World night, where we are studying different cultures and representing those cultures through various forms of art with our community. And it's been very inspiring. So this year, our staff decided that they want to do our 55th anniversary Purdy through the years. And so they're going to be doing different decades through the arts. And that will be on June 3rd. So I invite you, mark it down on your calendar. We're very excited. And then lastly, AI. What are we doing with AI? Our teachers have been teaching each other how to use AI. I've taken classes on how to use AI as a principal. That has helped me immensely with some time saving as well. But they also use it to create rubrics for students. I want to share an example of a second grade teacher, Mrs. Peterson. She was talking to her students because they were forgetting to put their heading on their paper. So they decided to ask AI to help them write a song so that they could remember to write their name on the top of the paper. And so they decided to do it to the tune of Row, Row, Row Your Boat. Do you mind if I share just a little bit? Okay.
When you
So we got a little work to do, but I love it because all the kids knew it and they were singing it, and it's been helping them to remember to write their name on their paper. But that's just one example. You can take it so far, but we're just starting small and embracing the learning with our kids and our teachers while we're doing it. And then I also wanted to talk about the augmentative and alternate communication device that Ryan was talking about. We're using these with our preschoolers and kindergartners, students that can't communicate, that have IEPs like you talked about, or special education. Of course, it's not turning on for me, but maybe you can get it on, Ryan. But I can show you an example. So I was in preschool class today, a student who is nonverbal, and it was time for snack, and so the teacher was able to have the student point to, do you want a banana or do you want a cracker? And the student can point to it, and the device will say the word for them. And so they're learning to be able to communicate without words, but they're also learning the vocabulary from the device. And it's pretty exciting to see what's happening. So you can see the device right there. Yeah, it's really exciting. So the possibilities are endless, and we're just really excited about embracing the innovation and AI as we are learning as well. Any questions for us?
Just a quick comment. Can we be sure to get you guys back with your playground design ideas? Because that's, as an architect, that's an area that AI is really, favorite word, disrupting traditional design methods. And it is so cool that you are going to go down that path and engage the students for the playground design.
It's going to be cool. I don't know if it's going to be like CAD worthy.
No. That's the whole point. It's not. No, it'll be, with very, from what I've seen early on, it's much more concept to 3D reality, kind of like some of the image generating AI tools, but with more design parameters. So, yeah, that'll be fantastic.
Yeah, it's going to be, when we talk about elementary kids designing things like this, it's a pretty high risk for us to go, okay, we're going to take this time and you're going to see what you can create, because sometimes they'll blow your mind, and then sometimes we have to go back to the drawing board. Is like, and then using these tools that we've never used before. I think that's going to be the biggest challenge for teachers. Is it's like, okay, I'm going to teach a lesson using something I've never really taught before, and then seeing how kids might interpret that, and then going back to the drawing board for the next time or the next year, or taking some of our failures and learnings and passing them on to our colleagues. You go, so this worked well for us, so next time, so you're not repeating some of those similar mistakes. So yeah, I'm excited too. We'll come back.
First question is it just me, or are you all wearing matching clothes on?
We talked about that. So I don't know how that happened.
Connected team.
It's really not on purpose?
It's going to be a flash mob later. We're like, woo. No, not
It's amazing.
purpose.
Everyone's wearing a burgundy shirt. I thought for sure, okay, by the time you guys got up, I thought for sure.
Yeah.
My question, I'm curious to know about all of these. Thank you for all of this. The SIP format is really new over the last year. And has that been enough time for you specifically as principals to kind of figure out if this is a process in which you're able to maybe streamline and really identify gaps, or look for resources, or really provide those targeted interventions? Are we on the right track for the way we're doing this? Loaded question.
Well, I think I agree that looking at it more frequently, and our staff looking at the data more frequently and timely, has been much more effective than waiting till the end of the year. So we used to do it like once or twice a year, but now we're doing it every 6 weeks. So it really is at the forefront of our minds all the time, and we're reviewing it and just trying to get better every time. We're looking at the data, and we're looking at our students and how we can continue to get better.
Great. Good.
I was just going to add just what Christy said. It's more authentic versus many years ago when SIP first came out. We had a SIP plan, and it was a big binder, and it kind of sat on the shelf. Mm-hmm. And this is something that we interact with on a regular basis with our teams, trying to figure out what's our next step. And it's that kind of plan, do, study, act piece. And it's a work in progress, and it is feels more. It is a work in progress. So I just want to say it's really good for us.
Good.
And then I'll just add too that just last week, Julie and I met with John Yellies and his whole teaching and learning team. And so we're trying to figure out what our support for the principals looks like in those 6-week cycles and making sure that that incremental improvement continues to happen and all that. So we're going to be working more regularly with them, try to identify some really key strategies and some key areas of support. And we'll probably have more to share with you in a few months once we get that stuff sorted out as well. Anything else?
Great. How about from the students? Oh, sorry, Chuck, go ahead.
Okay, Chuck.
So, I'm not quite sure how to even ask this. We always see the low numbers at the same schools. And obviously it's a demographics situation. And we talked a whole lot about all this other stuff, but obviously we need to target those groups.
Right.
What are we doing in that realm?
So kind of what I alluded to with us trying to be a partner with what's happening from the teaching and learning side of things and what we're doing in terms of supporting our principals so they can work with their teachers and provide them the resources they need so they can get the right professional development out. And that's where Ashley comes in too, because as we start looking at staffing already, we're going to do that next month for 25, 26. You know, and we heard it mentioned earlier, we were talking about one of our previous superintendents, you know, equitable is not necessarily equal, right?
Yeah.
So we're going to start having those conversations and figure out what kind of support each school needs so that we can achieve this really lofty goal you all have of 100%.
Right. At least a balance.
Right? So, okay. Any other questions? Otherwise, I'm going to pass it off to Julie unless there's some from the students.
Anything from the students?
I think it was David who mentioned it earlier, but like the kind of cohort, I guess, discrepancy with this data. Are we seeing like these kind of growth patterns as we go up or as we like watch the same cohort with like the like 20 like something % increases for like some of the schools to reach the 2026 goal, I guess?
Yeah, so we're seeing growth across the board in some areas, right? And that's maybe a question for James. And that's where we talk about student growth percentiles versus actual scores and stuff on a year-over-year basis. See, that's why we brought James. I knew you'd have to answer at least one question. Good
No,
question,
they're all
Logan.
in
Thank you.
burgundy. I'm not.
He's got a burgundy tie.
Is it a burgundy tie?
Let me see.
So as we're looking at cohort performance, we see a few things. One, we consistently see that like there will be in any given school, the 5th grade this year is just really high performing, and they were as 4th graders and they were as 3rd graders. And so we'll see that fairly typically. We do see some cases, and I think that's one of the places where it's really useful to look at how is a school, an elementary school, 3, 4, 5 doing all together, because then we'll kind of be able to wash out some of those effects. As we look at some of the growth targets that are needed to reach 100% by 2026, whether those are necessarily super likely to happen, I think is a separate question from, is that the goal, right? The goal is to get to 100%. Obviously, that's going to be a more ambitious target for some schools than others. And then as schools get higher achievement, we'll see this a lot with high schools as we start looking at graduation. Once you start getting really high achieving, even increasing just a little bit can become really challenging. And so I'd say that each of the schools has some growth targets that are ambitious, to say the least.
Okay, so my job is to close us out. So thank you so much for your attention and your questions. Our elementary team works closely together. So you heard today data stories from each elementary, but those are replicated throughout all 10 schools because the PLC is very tight between the elementary schools. They collaborate regularly. If they are struggling, they ask each other. If they are having successes, they share those. So we selected individual schools to showcase for you, but those data stories you heard are replicated across the entire district. So we appreciate you. Our elementary principals have already had a 12-hour plus day, so we will be excusing them from the rest of the meeting, and we appreciate your attention to that and their attention to that. Next month at our board meeting, you'll hear from our secondary schools in a similar format, again sharing data stories around how we are really focused on our SIP goals in every single building intentionally. And all of our schools are in their second data cycle right now throughout the district.
So Julie, may I ask a question? If I was interested in a specific school, how might I find where their SIP plan is so that I could look it over?
The SIP plans are all updated and live on our website. And that's a good question. Is there a button, Chris?
It's on the strategic plan.
On the strategic plan dashboard. With charts. There are charts. The charts are there. We wanted the stories to shine through today. So thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for staying so late. Okay. Does anyone need a stretch break? We only have one meeting in the month of November, one meeting in the month of December, so these are a little bit longer than usual. We still have quite a bit of business to get through this evening. So how about this? If you need to get up and stretch, just stretch well, and we'll keep going so that we don't have to stay too late. Yeah, stand up. All right, so item 7 for the evening is our comments from the community. As you know, we are now offering 2 distinct comment periods. This first one is only going to be for those who are wishing to speak on agenda items before we take action. For those who are speaking on topics that are not listed on the agenda, a separate comment period will be held later in this meeting. For each of those sessions, you'll have 3 minutes to speak. I'll call your name and come to the podium and introduce yourself, first and last name, and you will have a timer on the board here. If for some reason you're not able to complete your comments in 3 minutes, I will cut you off, but then you are welcome and invited to send them to us by email. So for agenda items this evening, we have one speaker signed up, and that's Sarah Garriott.
Good evening, members of the Board, Superintendent Barr. My name is Sarah Garriott, and I would like to speak to item number 9.14, changes to policy regarding sex discrimination and sex-based harassment. I can only assume that these revisions are in reaction to the recent radical changes to the Biden-Harris administration's changes to Title IX, which our state superintendent fully supports. I am here strongly recommending that these policy changes be paused. I think you all know that the Biden administration is on their way out, and that the Department of Education and their changes to Title IX are therefore very likely to be tossed out with the current administration. Why would the board want to expose the district to legal and financial risk by pursuing this policy when there's already several federal injunctions and the incoming administration has already indicated they will be changing course? Will federal funds be withheld from states unwilling to comply? That is what the Biden administration tried to do with these egregious changes to Title IX. That was perhaps not the smartest precedent. Will turnaround then be fair play? I might advise a wait-and-see approach and table these changes for the time being. As you also know, the changes to Title IX are currently already on pause in multiple states due to the questionable nature of their constitutionality and the likelihood that the states and individuals suing the administration over the changes are likely to win. In its preliminary injunction opinion, the Kansas District Court found that Title IX rewrites violate student First Amendment rights because it is so vague and overbroad that no one knows how to comply with it. Even the Department of Education itself admitted during oral argument that it didn't know when students could be punished for speaking out against gender ideology or advocating for their own safety in private spaces. Instead, the Department of Education said, "Let's wait and see." But the district court didn't buy that approach. If the government can't even say when this rule applies, no one should be forced to comply with it. This same argument can clearly be made for these policy changes the Peninsula School District is proposing tonight. The district court stated that the Department of Education cannot implement or enforce its new Title IX regulations in any school attended by a child of Moms for Liberty, current or future member, anywhere in the United States. Attorneys work through the legal process to ensure maximum protections possible for parents and their families, ultimately obtaining clarification that the preliminary injunction applies to both current and future members, and that the list of schools can continuously be updated as needed. You should be aware that the Peninsula School District, the following schools are protected by this injunction: Gig Harbor High School, Goodman Middle School, Kopachuk Middle School, Peninsula High School, and Swiftwater Elementary School. That list can and will be updated as needed. I strongly urge you to table these unconstitutional policy changes until further clarity is given following the new federal Trump administration's Department of Education advisory next year, as well as the knowledge that any egregious First Amendment sex-based harassment allegations will undoubtedly fail in court if applied to any child related to the injunction in the schools aforementioned. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, we are moving on to our item 8, which is the consent agenda. Is there any discussion prior to the vote? Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda?
I'll move to approve the consent agenda, and I just wanted, I didn't get in there quick enough, pretty excited about girls flag football. That's all. Very excited.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Sorry, I'll open it back up. Is there any discussion other than our excitement for flag football? No. Okay, thank you. Sorry, I didn't pause long enough. It's been moved by Jennifer and seconded by Chuck to approve the consent agenda. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried and the consent agenda has been approved. Okay, I think we have talked about this many times over the last months. We have a lot of policy work to do to update our policy manual, and we knew these were coming. We often have our staff work through the updates, or at least approve them or know that they're coming. And we will now begin doing, I would say, tranches of updates. Sometimes these are new policies, sometimes they are updated policies, sometimes they are just renumbered. So that is the work that we are continuing this evening. Some of these are going to be first reads only, and there's no action that's taken on them. So we're going to begin with item 9.1, review and first reading of policy 2320, field trips, excursions, and outdoor education. And so for those who are here tonight, we have a new platform that we're using for our minutes and agendas. It's called Board Docs. Jenny brought that to us, thank you. And when you look at these policies, you can see on there's a part that says public content. You can see some explanation about what the changes are, or you can look and see what the markups are. So this one just really requests updated staff to include a paragraph about overnight board approval for taking students out of state or overnight. So that's really what this one is. Is there any discussion on the first read of this policy, field trips, excursions, and outdoor education? Okay. 9.2 is review of the first reading of policy 2414 related to community service. This is just recommendations and revisions to the policy and the supporting procedure. It's just acknowledging the role of community service and enhancing our students' academic and social skills and preparing them for the workforce. We may consider including it as part of a district's graduation requirement at some point, and superintendent and team will work on procedure with that. Is there any discussion on the first reading of policy 2414, community service? No? Okay. First read, item 9.3 is the first read of policy 2415, performance-based pathway for high school graduation. This is a new policy for us. And James Cantonwine shared with us that last year legislation was passed establishing a performance-based graduation pathway. Adopting this WASDA model policy will allow students to complete portfolio-style assessments in class to demonstrate their understanding and skills in key math and language arts areas in order to meet their graduation pathway requirement. So that's exciting. And again, superintendent and team will be working through a procedure related to that. Is there any discussion on the first review of policy 2414? Okay. Item 9.4, first reading of policy 5101. This is actually being renumbered to 5001, related to the hiring of retired school employees. And you will see over the next couple of months there's going to be a lot of renumbering. I'm not exactly sure how that happens. Occasionally over the years, policies are updated, retired, changed, moved, and ours, as we're going through the update, we are going to be renumbering them so that they match with the state model policy. So any discussion on, which one are we on? Policy 5101 being renumbered to 5001, hiring of retired school employees. Okay. Item 9.5, this is review of the first read of policy 5105. We are renumbering it to 5005. Employment and volunteers, disclosures, certification requirements, assurances, and approvals. Again, this is a renumbering and an update of an essential existing policy. Is there any discussion? No? Okay. Item 9.6 is review of the first reading of policy 5120, to 5240. Bear with me, I know some of these renumberings are not super exciting. This is a renumbering. Is there any, let's see, this one is evaluation of staff. So is there any discussion on the renumbering? Okay. Moving on to item 9.7, review of the first reading of policy 5300 to 5203. Again, this is a renumbering and it's an update of a discretionary policy, but it's one that already exists, and so we're just including the update here. Is there any discussion on the renumbering and update? No? Okay. Item 9.8 is a review of the first reading of policy 5410, renumbering it to 5222. This is related to job sharing of staff members. Again, this is an essential policy that we are renumbering and updating. Is there any discussion any discussion about the first read? Okay. Item 9.9 is the first read of policy 5500 to 5011, sex discrimination and sex-based harassment of district staff prohibited. This is again a renumbering of an essential policy. Any update or any discussion? I'm losing my place here. No? Okay. Item 9.10, this is the review of the first reading of policy 5115 to 5050 related to contracts. This is another essential policy that exists that requires renumbering and update. Is there any discussion for the first reading of policy 5115, renumbered to 5050? Stay with me, stay with me. Okay. Review, item 9.11, review of the first reading of policy 3420, anaphylaxis prevention and response. This is an essential update, and it has also been reviewed by our lead nurse, something that's required. Is there any discussion? Okay. Item 9.12, this is the review of the first reading of policy 3424, opioid-related overdose reversal. This is again an essential policy that needs to be updated with the language. Any discussion about this? Okay. Again, for everyone who's watching, all of these are available to be reviewed on our website on the agenda this evening. Item 9.13 is the review and first read of policy 3414, infectious diseases. This again is an essential policy that we have, needs to be updated. There's a name change. It used to be communicable diseases, now it's infectious diseases, and a few other updates for the language. Any discussion on the first read of policy 3414? All right. Item 9.14, review and approval of the first read of policy 3205, sex discrimination and sex-based harassments of students prohibited. Again, this is one that's essential by the state, has been updated with legal language from WASDA within the past year, and this update is ensuring compliance with the latest legal guidance. Any discussion on the first read? Okay, it is recommended that the Board of Directors move this policy from the first read to the approval of the second reading in a single motion because we do not have another meeting this month, and for time constraints, we're looking to pass as the second read of the policy this evening. Is there a motion to approve the second reading of policy 3205, sex discrimination and sex-based harassment of students prohibited?
Can you repeat that, please?
Mm-hmm. This policy is needed for legal matters, so it's recommended that we move this for an approval this evening.
And what happens if we don't? I mean, if we normally have a first reading, we don't have a second reading for a while, could be in December. I mean, why does that have to be approved tonight? Because I can confess I haven't read all these.
It has been highly recommended by our legal advisement to have this in place at this time.
So we're currently working with an attorney who has reviewed our policies and procedures. I have 20 days to have an update. So we will not have another board meeting in time to get an updated approval of the policy, and it is being required.
This is the next two policies.
Correct.
So it's not only this one, but also
Correct.
9.1.
That's correct.
I guess my question is the same. What happens if we don't approve it tonight? 'Cause
We won't
normally
be in
have a first
compliance
read.
with the Office of Civil Rights.
Okay.
The only other option would be to have a special meeting.
Okay.
So if that's what the board would like to choose on these next two, that would be your choice.
Approving this wouldn't forbode us from changing it if there were.
Absolutely not. At that point, you can change policy when it's been guidance,
Right.
new guidance is out. Absolutely not. So that's the beauty of policies. That's what you're seeing
This just
examples
puts us
of.
in compliance with the December 3rd deadline that we're under right now.
Correct.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the second reading of policy 3205, sex discrimination and sex-based harassments of students prohibited?
I'll move to approve policy 3205.
And I'll second.
It's been moved by Jennifer and seconded by Chuck to approve policy 3205, the update, sex discrimination and sex-based harassment of students prohibited. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, motion is carried. The second read of policy 3205, sex discrimination and sex-based harassment of students prohibited has been approved. Item 9.15 is the review and approval of the first read of policy 3207. This is the prohibition of harassment, intimidation, and bullying of students. Is there any discussion on the first reading of policy 3207?
Are we also being advised to approve this evening?
Yeah,
Okay.
we are.
Yeah.
So
I'll make a
same-
motion to approve 3207.
I'll second.
Okay, is there any, well, let me just go through the script a little bit here. It's been recommended that we do approve this evening, so the motion has been made by Chuck. Yes, and so, David, did you second that? Sorry, and seconded by David. Is there any discussion prior to the vote? Okay, it's been moved by Chuck, seconded by David to approve the second reading of policy 3207, prohibition of harassment, intimidation, and bullying of students, the update. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried. The second read of policy 3207, prohibition of harassment, intimidation, and bullying of students has been approved. One more item this evening to get through, item 9.16. This is the approval of resolution 2412, authorizing amendment to purchase agreement for the Purdy interchange property. Is there any discussion prior to the vote? Is there a motion to approve resolution 2412, authorizing amendment to purchase agreement for Purdy interchange property?
So moved. So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been moved by David and seconded by Jennifer to approve resolution 2412. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion is carried. Resolution 24-12, authorizing amendment to purchase agreement for Purdy interchange property has been approved. Okay, great. All right, until next month on the policies. Thank you very much. Item 10, comments from the community on non-agenda items. So as I call you to the podium, you will have 3 minutes to speak. Please come up and state your first and last name. You'll see a timer on the screen. If for some reason you're unable to complete your comments within the 3 minutes, please just email them to the board. First up this evening, we have Chris Doherty.
Good evening, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak with you tonight. My name is Chris Doherty, and I'm the parent of 2 students in PSD. I was encouraged to see that voters in Washington State supported a vision of public education that is diverse, equitable, and inclusive. Supporting a candidate who values science, acknowledges climate change, believes in keeping religion separate from our schools, and wants to ensure public education funding is prioritized over private school vouchers, I felt proud of this outcome. It is, however, disheartening to see that this vision wasn't upheld at the national level. In light of the recent election results, I'm concerned about what steps the district is taking to protect our students and staff and maintain a safe, respectful learning environment. For example, I want to ask if you're aware of a disturbing incident at one of our middle schools the day after the election where a student was physically assaulted by numerous peers wearing red shirts simply because they supported a different candidate. These are serious concerns that demand attention. I hope we can work together to ensure our schools remain places where all students and staff can feel safe, respected, and supported regardless of their political views. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Erica Jackman.
Stand right there. I'm with Tess. She's the next speaker. She only has one line. Hi, my name is Erica Jackman, and I'm the mother of 3 daughters in the district. We moved here 2.5 years ago from West Seattle, in big part for the schools, and we have not been disappointed. Thank you for all you do. We are a family of swimmers, and my daughters joined Harbor Aquatics Club immediately after moving. We have loved it. We have watched it grow into an amazing small coach-owned business, female and minority-owned small business that serves this community in a very needed way. Penalizing Harbor Aquatics because they are a for-profit entity and raising the rent 300% would be devastating for this community, especially since this community does not have a public pool. If you do this, they will either be forced to operate in Port Orchard or Tacoma, or even worse, cease to operate. In Seattle, I served on the board of the Seattle Metropolitan Aquatic Club for 3 years as their fundraising director. As a result, I am very familiar with nonprofit swim team operations. I am also familiar with coach-owned for-profit LLCs, which are very common in aquatics. In fact, 2 of my daughters, Tess included, dive with Emerald Diving, which is a coach-owned LLC operated by 2-time Olympic medalist Kelly McCormick. I am currently the president of the Emerald Diving Booster Club, which serves adjacent to the coach-owned business and raises money for the athletes. I know for a fact that this for-profit club, as well as several other profit LLCs and sole proprietors, rent the Weyerhaeuser King County Aquatic Center, which is an 8-lane pool with 2 1-meter springboards, 2 3-meter springboards, and 10-meter platforms for $65 an hour. There are a lot of advantages being a coach-owned business. In fact, most nonprofits did not survive COVID. I'm not sure how Harbor Aquatics would have survived as a nonprofit recently with the unexpected pool closure of Peninsula High School this fall. Being a coach-owned business gives the small business the ability to quickly pivot, change plans, etc. Please reconsider this 300% rent increase. These women do so much for the swimming community in Gig Harbor. I also understand the district needs money for needed pool updates, etc. I would love to be part of a levy committee, booster board, fundraising team that could help with this rather than penalizing this hardworking small business and your constituents.
Please make the right decision so Harbor Aquatics Club can stay in Gig Harbor.
Thank you. Okay, so that was Tess Jackman, so I'm going to take you off the list. Thank you very much, Tess and Erica. Next up, we have Hillary. Is it Jensen Berggren? Okay.
Hello, my name is Hillary Jensen Berggren, and I'm one of the coaches and owners for Harbor Aquatics Club. The main reason I'm here tonight is just to introduce you to our team, let you know that we exist in the community, and help you better understand the importance of our programming. Harbor Aquatics Club is a swim team here in Gig Harbor, and we help connect people with the sport of swimming. But it's much more than swim practice and swim lessons. We're community builders, and we're providing a program that helps build strong friendships, self-esteem, confidence, and skills that could one day save lives. We take this responsibility very seriously, and we have devoted our life to providing these services to Gig Harbor. The second reason that I'm here tonight is to draw attention to an obstacle that small businesses are currently facing in Gig Harbor. PSD's current rental rate criteria does not include an affordable rate for long-term rentals by small businesses. Harbor Aquatics Club falls into that category, and as it currently stands, our rental rate would increase from $60 an hour to nearly 4 times as much, $210 an hour. We can't afford to rent the pool at $210 an hour. The community needs services that we are providing, but at $210 an hour, this is just prohibitively expensive. We're here to ask the school board to consider an amendment to their current rate criteria that would include an affordable rate for small businesses that are needing to rent PSD facilities long-term. I want to be clear that we're not asking for special treatment. We're looking for an amendment that would be appropriate for all small businesses. It also makes perfect sense to us that small businesses should pay a rent that's slightly higher than nonprofits. However, the rental rate still needs to be fair and affordable. For pool rental, the rate needs to be closer to $60 an hour for renting long-term. We rent nearly 60 hours a month from PSD, and we have provided PSD with quite a lot of revenue, and we're happy to do so, and we want to continue providing revenue to PSD. We're here seeking fairness for this community so that small businesses who are providing much-needed services aren't pushed out. Thank you for your time, and we look forward to a solution that includes an amendment with an affordable option for small businesses. We're eager to continue providing swimming services for Gig Harbor, and we hope that you'll provide an affordable option for pool rental. We also look forward to getting to know you better as Harbor Aquatics Club and sharing more about our programming and what it means to this community. Thank you.
Thank you. And next we have Eric White. Eric White.
Good evening. My name is Eric White. My wife and I have raised 2 kids here in Gig Harbor. My eldest is now in college, and my son, Jason, is at Gig Harbor High School. Tonight, I'd like to call your attention to the importance of having a swim program in our community. Jason tried a wide variety of sports: baseball, basketball, lacrosse, soccer, wrestling, flag football. For every one, it was like pulling teeth to get him to go to practice. He's a gentle kid. He hated the interpersonal aggression that's inherent in those sports. It's possible we should have named him Ferdinand. Anyway, getting him involved in anything that would keep him active was very, very difficult. Then COVID hit, and as happened to so many parents, we totally lost control of screen time. It seemed likely that Jason would become a permanent couch potato. Swim rescued him from that. He's thrived in the water, where he can compete primarily against himself. And he found on the team people that he's deeply connected with and that form a core of his social network. As he said to me one day, "Dad, the other kids at swim just get me." That wasn't something that he had ever experienced before. Unlike all the other sports he tried, he begged us to go to swim practice more often. His self-confidence has significantly improved as he's gotten into great shape, started feeling good about a healthy body, and been rewarded with steady improvements and success in his sport. He can't wait to compete on the Gig Harbor High team this year, which, incidentally, will no doubt benefit from having a kid who has already learned how to be a competitive swimmer instead of needing to start from scratch. Without a robust swim program here in Gig Harbor, none of this would have happened. With 2 parents working long shifts, driving to Tacoma or elsewhere for swim practice would have been too difficult to manage. And there's no other athletic program in the community that Jason felt comfortable participating in. The program that Harbor Aquatics Club has built is a tremendous resource for our community. And continued access to the pool facilities run by the district is necessary to keep the program alive. So tonight, I urge you to help them make that possible. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. White. Next, we have Karen Halverson.
Good evening. My name is Karen Halverson, and I'm here tonight as a parent of 2 students, one at PHS and another at KPMS, and as the ECAP preschool teacher at Vaughn Elementary. This is where I get emotional. Teaching young children has given me a unique window into the value of kindness. When people ask me what I love about my work, I share that nothing brings me more joy than watching my students extend kindness to one another. It's the moment when a struggling child is offered a helping hand or a comforting hug. It's hearing students encourage each other to try again after a mistake or compliment each other's achievements. And it's seeing them lift each other up despite their differences. These moments shape the foundation of a safe, inclusive environment. However, I come to you tonight with a heavy heart. In the wake of last week's election, I received a call from a distressed friend whose child was physically assaulted at school simply for her political beliefs. And this incident was deeply troubling. I couldn't help but think of how this environment of division risks making intolerance seem acceptable, even normal. It's critical that we address this now before things go too far or get out of hand. There is a concept known as the paradox of tolerance, which suggests that if a society tolerates intolerance, it risks allowing intolerance to grow until tolerance itself is undermined. To foster a climate of mutual respect, we must be mindful of this balance. Tonight, I'm here to urge this board to consider how we can cultivate an environment where kindness is our guiding principle, not only for our students, but for our staff and for our community. What policies can we adopt to ensure that every student feels they belong, that they feel safe and valued as they walk through our doors? I am advocating for PSD to adopt a zero-tolerance policy on intolerance, and to take intentional steps to teach and model kindness. Every student, staff member, and community member deserves to experience the warmth and kindness that my preschool students exude each day. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next, we have Gianna Link. Gianna Link.
Hello, I'm Gianna Link. I am the co-owner of the small business in Gig Harbor Aquatics Club. In December of 2021, in the midst of COVID, we got kids back into the public pools here and brought swim team back to Gig Harbor for the first time since March of 2020. I want to ask the board to give small businesses a competitive pool and facility rental rate. Small businesses are vital to this community, and Gig Harbor has a track record of being great at supporting them. The current rate for small businesses to rent the pool and facilities isn't affordable. We are not asking for favoritism for our business. We're asking for all small businesses that have the need to use the facilities to be given a competitive rate. Small businesses deserve this. Our community should be encouraging women in business to be successful and helping them succeed, not continuously asking them to become a nonprofit. We are setting an example for kids in the area that they can become business owners while also making an impact in the community. I am proud of what we have done as a business. We have a thriving competitive swim team where kids from all different backgrounds and skill levels are able to grow their love for the sport, learn how hard work can breed positive results, and receive the mental health benefits from movement and socialization in the water. We have just begun to offer swim lessons for beginners so they can become safe in the water, something that is desperately needed in this community. And we need affordable pool time to provide more swim lessons for the many kids that are on our wait list. We are also able to provide teams with their first jobs and teach them how to be leaders and role models of the younger generation, and help them teach the love of the sport. We also have incredible adult coaches who are experts in the sport and amazing role models to the youth in this area. These coaches deserve to be paid well, and a fair rental rate will help us continue to pay them well. The current rental rate for small business sends a message that small businesses are not important and that our success is not supported. I do not believe that is the message the school board wants to send, and that is why I'm hopeful for a future of a fair and affordable rate. Thank you for giving me this time to speak about the importance of small business.
Thank you. Next, we have Shannon Flute.
Hi, my name is Shannon. I have two kiddos in the district, one in middle school and one in this great facility we're in here, Swiftwater. And both of my girls also swim for Harbor Aquatics. We joined the team before it was Harbor Aquatics in 2019, and we're completely devastated like everyone else when it shut down for COVID. Somehow Gianna and Hillary pulled out a miracle and started this team and got our kids back into swimming. My youngest had done swim lessons in other parts of town and just couldn't get there, and they took her in and under their wing and taught her how to swim. And now both of my girls are competing at meets on a regular basis, and they're loving it. And so today I brought this duck, and to a lot of people here know these ducks, but to some people this is just a rubber ducky, but this is not a rubber ducky. This represents my 12-year-old's 50 free, and she won her heat, and she loves to compete. She'll probably never be an Olympic champion. Maybe, we'll see if I can get her to practice more. But, you know, she won't win first place at these meets or hasn't yet, but she won her heat. And you should have seen her smile when she brought this back to us as we were sitting in the bleachers cheering her on. And so she has them all aligned on her shelf in her room. And my 9-year-old has also started winning a couple of her heats as well. And so we write the year and what she won on there to keep. And so I'm here today to ask to please consider changing your policy and lowering the rates for Harbor Aquatics. We need this program. We need Hillary and Gianna. They are teaching so many kids in our community how to swim, how to dive, to be safe. They're two wonderful women that own this business. They deserve a chance, and we're asking you to give it to them so that someday we can have all of those wonderful lifeguards at our hopefully future public pool in Gig Harbor. So thank you.
Thank you. Next is Katie Russell. Katie Russell? I thought I saw you back there.
Hi. I'm here tonight to support Harbor Aquatics, but also the Special Olympics. I have to read it because I get really nervous up here. I'm here tonight on behalf of Harbor Aquatics and many families in our community who are deeply affected by the recent increase in pool rental rates. This increase isn't just a financial adjustment, it threatens to undermine the very programs that bring our community together. Community-based programs like Harbor Aquatics rely on fair and feasible pricing to keep serving families like mine. Both my sons are part of the Harbor Aquatics swim team. For my youngest, who struggles with sensory overload, sorry, whenever I talk about my kids, I cry. Swim lessons with Harbor Aquatics has been nothing short of transformative. The pool has become a place that he finds calm, builds confidence, and connects with his community. Opportunities like that wouldn't be possible without this program. For my oldest, his involvement goes further. He volunteers with the Special Olympics swim sessions held at the Peninsula High School, where he helps other athletes experience the benefits of swimming. However, rising costs have already impacted programs like the Special Olympics. Years ago, the school allowed them to use the pool for free, including lifeguards. But gradually, the rate increased to $20 an hour without lifeguards. Now they pay $60 an hour without lifeguards, which they have to pay for separately, which is another $100 an hour. So they're paying $160 an hour to run the Special Olympics out of the Peninsula High School. This creates a significant financial strain for the program that exists purely on the support of individuals within this Peninsula School District.
Let's get back to building a community that uses resources like the pool to benefit everyone. I urge you to reconsider this increase and explore solutions that would support Harbor Aquatics and other community programs so we can continue making positive, lasting impacts. Thank you. With my extra time, I do want to say that I loved seeing the high schools come together tonight. That was very empowering to see that, especially after some discourse in the past. And seeing them come together with the athletic program and supporting each other was great. And I think that that's where our district is going, is building a community. And with that, we need a program like Harbor Aquatics. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Dave Marino. Dave Marino here? There you are.
Good evening. Name is David Marino. My wife and I have a 5th grader at Pioneer Elementary, so shout out to Mrs. Strader, who was there before she had to leave. I'd like to thank the school board for, first of all, you have a very difficult job. Unfortunately, we live in very divisive political times, and I know your job is not easy, as not easy for school boards all across the nation, so thank you for your dedication to the students and staff of Peninsula School District. I'm here tonight to speak in support of Harbor Aquatics. To the father of Jason, our 5th grader is a very introspective and introverted individual. We've tried dance, we've tried gymnastics. This is the first year we did Gig Harbor Aquatics, or Harbor Aquatics, I should say. She comes home excited. She literally comes home and goes, "Hey mom, look at my swim muscles. Look at my swim muscles." I was a lifeguard for 10 years. I take water safety very seriously. We live in the maritime city, but we don't have publicly available aquatic facilities. In the Netherlands, after a flood, I think it was in the 40s or 50s, they instituted nationwide school-level required swim lessons. We don't have that here. Peninsula School District is the only opportunity for companies like Harbor Aquatics. Parents of elementary and middle schoolers shouldn't have to resort to Canterwood or YMCA memberships to get our kids swim programs that they need. Low-cost swim programs are not a recreational issue. They're a safety issue. Thank you.
Thank you. And finally this evening, we have Jake Chambers.
All right. Thanks for having me here. Thanks for the meeting, my first school board meeting, and first time speaking at a school board meeting. So hitting off some big bucket list items tonight. These meetings go long, man. You guys got a lot of stamina. Shout out to the students. Like, I could not sit still this long now as a 42-year-old. I left the room like 5 times. You guys just sitting there. I'm like, guys are studs. Impressive. Want to speak out because some of the things that, will concern me. I'm a dad. I'm a pastor of a small local church. I'm a soccer coach. And I'm passionate about having happy and healthy kids. And so when we can find things that help our kids be healthy and happy, then I think we need to do everything we can to support things that help our kids be happy and healthy, which I know is, even hearing tonight, is the passion of this school board. We know that there are a lot of emotional, mental, physical health issues hitting our children today at alarming rates. As a pastor, I have conversations with parents and kids, things coming up like suicide ideation, depression, anxiety. We also know that physical exercise is huge in battling some of these emotional and mental issues. Additionally, there's research that playing in the water, simply just touching water with your hand, actually fires neurons in your brain that helps you be calm and helps you focus and helps give you happiness. One of my daughters can't focus anywhere, except we found that if you put her in a pool, she can focus. It's miraculous what it does. The other thing that we're battling and our youth are battling is loneliness. We have more online acquaintances and less actual face-to-face relationships than ever before. Harbor Aquatics Club is providing physical health, it's providing mental health, it's providing emotional health, and it is a family. It is helping with loneliness. Kids show up at that pool and they're part of a community, they're part of a team, whether they're just starting out, just learning, or they're competing at the highest levels, competing at our local high schools. They are part of a team and a family. And so my encouragement is let's do everything we can with scheduling, with pricing, with everything to help this team thrive so the kids in our community can thrive. So together we can have happier and healthier kids, because that's what we all want. And thank you for everything you guys do to help our kids be happy and healthy. Appreciate it. Thank you for your time.
Okay, that concludes our comments from the community this evening. Thanks for everyone for coming to share with us tonight. Moving on to item 11 is the superintendent's report.
All right, I will agree. This meeting has gone long, so thank you for hanging in there. I also want to thank all of our veterans. Yesterday I had an opportunity, my husband and I went to the airport for their Veterans Day assembly, and I don't know how many people were there. I know that there were 100 more veterans and their families than the year prior. And I also know that it is the largest indoor Veterans Day assembly that is occurring in the state of Washington. All of the Kiwanis, the Rotary, the NJROTC students that were there, it was simply amazing. And it was a full dinner for all veterans and their families. And the focus yesterday was really on the D-Day celebration anniversary, and it lasted close to 3 hours, and it became more of a educational. There were multiple speakers, there were nonprofits there, and it was really, really interesting. And I know my husband, he is a superintendent of another school district, and he said he has never been to a celebration and an educational opportunity like that. So I am just very honored that we are in a community that celebrates, and really, it was really heartfelt, and it was really important to the people that attended, and it was important for all of the families and myself, and I know many of you are connected, military connected, to just hear the stories. So I really encourage that if you know of veterans, think about that for next year. It was really a simply amazing, and I don't think that they turned away anyone, and there was standing room only. Our NJROTC, it was pretty wonderful, and I'm looking back there at Ashley. Her daughter was in the, and I'd never seen this before, an all-female flag bearing color guard. Thank you for the language. Yes. At the beginning, and then it seemed that the more veteran was at the end, but our students did a wonderful job, and they served meals, and so that was pretty great. Just a reminder that November is Native American Heritage Month, and we celebrate all of our students and families that are connected to our Native American families. I would also like to just announce the Peninsula School Board, School District Board of Director receives the 2024 Board of Distinction title for the 3rd consecutive year. You will be accepting your award next week. So congratulations to you. And also, I think it's important that the community realizes and recognizes the hard work that the board, every policy that is passed, really trickles down into the classroom and is on behalf of students. So you will be attending and participating, and actually you will be doing most of the work at the WASDA celebration next, Boy, I think I need a break. I think I need a 5-minute break. We will be presenting on our cell phone policy, have been asked to do that, as well as the CFO superintendent board relation in terms of fiscal viability, as well as AI. And so I want to thank I want to thank Ashley Murphy and Chris Hagel and myself, but we will be attending on your behalf, and I know that you will be participating. So it really is a fine honor, and it is a joy and an honor to serve with such a board of directors. So thank you for your hard work. From AWSL, and I think that was announced actually, about Gig Harbor has been nominated for and given an award recognizing schools that create and sustain that positive school culture, effectively setting the tone for a successful academic year. So this recognition from AWSP as well as AWSL highlights the school's commitment to fostering a sense of community amongst students, staff, and families. So congratulations to Gig Harbor. That is really an award that you don't seek out. It's not a grant. It's something that is recognized throughout the state, and so that is pretty amazing. So I hope that Gig Harbor students feel proud and continue the hard work, right? It's one of those awards that you just want to continue. Our Aviation Academy is coming in 2025, and so we look forward to that. We announced that last meeting, but just getting our public ready for that. So if you have high school students who are interested in aviation as a career, just know that we will be starting our Aviation Academy next year. And last but not least, remember Thanksgiving break is November 27th through the 29th. However, get on your calendar Winterfest and Tidefest to get all of your items for your families. All right, with that, thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you for those words, we appreciate it. Okay, item 12 is board discussion and comments. Who wants to start tonight?
I can be short and sweet.
All right.
When we honored Jim Cooligan earlier, it brought back a memory for me. I've been involved in the schools for a long time, and this was, I think, prior to even being on the Peninsula Schools Education Association. But being friends with Hugh and Janice Millen, my wife and I were a young couple with a baby. Gonna have Christmas alone. We were invited to Jim's wife's home for Christmas. And it was very special. Hugh and Janice. But just out of the blue, they extended that invitation. Didn't know us. Wonderful getting to know Jim. And that had been 20. Wonderful man. And he did a lot. There was a lot of questions when he came into the district as to whether or not you hire a colonel. Military background, really no superintendent background. But it was the right time. Changed. And then I'm very excited about purchase of property. For anything. It opens up property. For shop class. They will come. Yes.
I'll go quick. kind of linking back to the SIT plans, and it had been mentioned that last week was conference week for our students, and I just wanted to give a big heartfelt thank you to our teachers and staff for that week. It is continuously amazing to me now that I think this is my 6th year going to conferences in this district, and it's just incredible to me how well the teachers in a relatively short amount of time know our children, and the way that they have these student-led conferences now. It's just amazing. I see a side of my child, and I imagine other parents do, that you don't typically see as a parent. And so it just, that reminder of how much care and effort our teachers put into every child every day was really, really great to see. And, you know, it, like I said, it's just a window into a part of my own kids that I don't get to see every day. So thank you, teachers and staff, for a fantastic conference week. And kind of along those lines, again, at the Veterans Day, or the Veterans Day Assembly down at the Vintage Airplane Museum, I had the pleasure to speak with the owner and the general manager, and it was so inspiring to hear them talk about our aviation program and how excited they are to be partnering with this district. And, you know, if there's quite a few of us have aviation connections around here, but, you know, if there's one thing, get a pilot, start talking about airplanes, and oh boy, they'll go on for a while. But it just, I think that's a piece that we're being able to connect now with this program and future programs as we connect deeper with our community. I think it's only going to grow exponentially. And it just made me think at a recent conference, can I borrow your cup, Chuck? Mm-hmm. You know, with Veterans Day, for some, you know, Veterans Day, it's personal, you know, my own experience, a family that, you know, my grandfather who commissioned me back in 1998 was a World War II veteran. And there's something to me very connected about military service and public schools. And I think it's summed up right here in this quote, which I love, I'd never heard before, but out of the public schools grows the greatness of a nation. And I think that is a great summary for the work here in PSD, the work of our teachers, the work of our veterans, and that's it. November, the month of gratitude.
Yeah, I don't, not anything really school related. I went to the Veterans Day Assembly in Tacoma because there were mutual events, and so I was invited to a big event over there, hundreds of people, and the keynote speaker was Johnny Joey Jones is his name. Mm. He was a Marine Corps EOD technician, bomb technician, and he told us his story about when he was in Afghanistan, and he was clearing IEDs, and unfortunately he stepped to the right and stepped to the left, and he stepped on an IED and it blew his legs off, and he told a story about that. So it was very inspirational, and like us living all over the world, 28 years in the military, and hearing his story and his journey and how positive he was about losing his legs, and still he's been very successful. Mm-hmm. And he said, I didn't lose my legs. I got a second chance on life. And so he took a very positive outlook. So that was pretty cool.
That's awesome. I love that. So next week we're going to WASDA. So this year it's in Spokane. We're super excited and bummed that we can't take our students in years that we're going to Spokane. But next year we'll take kids back to, it'll be in Seattle, not Bellevue. But it's a great opportunity for us as a board just to get together. And I think one of the things I'm most proud of is that we do everything together there. Sometimes you see boards and some people don't go or some people split up, but we travel as a group, and I think we never talked about doing it that way. That's just how we choose to be. We are one board representing this great district, and we all get along, and we're proud of our schools, and we're proud to be there together. It's an opportunity that we can learn, but we are now evolving into a district that people want to learn from. And I find that to be the case no matter where we go. So when we're going to conferences to learn, we usually end up being asked a lot as well. And I appreciate that, because I remember 3 years ago, you said you want to make this a nationally recognized district. And in this short amount of time, we absolutely are achieving that goal. So that is in no small part to the hard work that everybody puts in every day. And I appreciate it very much. I wanted to just talk about the Veterans Day assemblies, because I know it's something that's in our statute that we have to do it, but it's just, it's so much more than that. It's giving our students an opportunity to hear these stories and learn about the wonderful people who are in their community, and giving them a voice and a way to say thank you. So I'm so grateful to our principals who've put together these amazing programs, and I will speak quickly on behalf of Lieutenant Colonel Wimberly, who was asked to speak at a couple of schools. My husband had a pretty cool job when he was in the Air Force, and people will often ask him to speak about it. Kids think it's pretty cool, and he said, all right, we'll always push the limits on what's appropriate to say or what's not, in the hopes that maybe he won't get asked to come back next year. So my mom was a middle school science teacher, and she asked him once to come in to speak about the physics of how a jet engine works. And I'm not going to say it here because it's wholly inappropriate, even though it's accurate. There's a 4-word little phrase that teaches you how a jet engine works. So I encourage you to look that up. And then imagine my mother's face in middle school when my husband said that in front of the classroom. But I don't know if you were there. He spoke about something pretty gnarly as well, how you get through pilot training when you get airsick and you're about to wash out of the program, the lengths that you go to in order to not wash out, which might include swallowing vomit so that you don't have to bail out of the program. Anyway, thank you for inviting him. I'm not selling it. I'm not. Somehow he did, but I just always appreciate this month, and think it's not by coincidence that celebrating veterans falls in our month of gratitude. So with that, I'll just close by expressing my gratitude to all of you. You elect us to be your representative, and it is truly an honor to do this work on behalf of the community, because I think we all feel so strongly about what's best for our kids. So thank you for continuing to let us do this work. And our next meeting will be December 3rd. So you'll have a few weeks off again. December 3rd at 6:00 p.m. here at Swiftwater Elementary. And at 9:19, we are adjourned.